L'chaim l'bracha.
Fine, Rabbi. Good health.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam shakel niyah b'dvarim.
Amen.
Amen.
L'chaim l'bracha.
L'chaim.
Was achsidische Farbrengen kenufta kemalach michal nishtufta, especially such a yom skula. Beis Iyar l'chatchila riber teferes shebeteferes. First thing everyone's ak l'chaim, and the Eibush is a helping that it should be l'chaim. Allah zol leben. Everyone should be gesund. Everyone should have a Yeshua. The Eibush should bring us out of the golus, out of all the halamis v'esteirim, and should be teva nira v'anigla. The emes teva zay Mashiach tzidkenu. L'chaim, l'chaim. First thing is ein inyan yitzim midei pshutei. It's Beis Iyar l'chatchila riber. L'chatchila riber is, we all know the piskam that the Rebbe Marash said, the Bal Yemeledes, today is Mazle Gever, that the Welt sagt, as mechanisch darunter geht man a riber, und ich sag l'chatchila riber. That's the essence of the day. It's more than the essence of the day. That's what the Rebbe turned into one of the central ideas and themes of our whole generation. The Rebbe took, I think it used to be just a vart, like a chassidish vart. The Welt sagt, und ich sag, and the Rebbe Marash said, l'chatchila riber. It was like another chassidish line. And the Rebbe took this vart, and the Rebbe made that our foundation of our shlichus, our foundation of our approach to the world. The Rebbe made us a l'chatchila riber generation. The Rebbe made us l'chatchila riber chassidim. So when it comes Beis Iyar, we have to, again, first start from the basics and take some moments to focus and to think about what it means. Pashat kipshutei, pirish amiles, the ben chamish lemikra taich of l'chatchila riber, before we get into any big things. And we have to think about what it means, each of us, adaita dinafshe, what it means to us, what it means to our Avedas Hashem, and how do we translate it so we could become more l'chatchila riberdik. We could get a little bit higher than all of the darkness that's surrounding us, that's engulfing us. That's the kayach of the piskam, is that we should be l'chatchila riber. And when you think about it, like the Pashat Pshat, what does it mean? Take a simple example, scenario, that there's a person who le'aleinu has business hardships, he has parnasa difficulty, he has difficulties with livelihood. So there's a Welt approach. The Welt approach, right? We're not talking about a Welt episode, even a Goyla Havda. We're talking about a Teradike Welt that the Rebbe Marash is referring to, that becomes part of Achsidische Piskam. Like we had in this past week's Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe brought about Isha Mazras Tchilo Yeledes Zachar, Ish Mazria Tchilo Yeledes Nekeva. And the Alter Rebbe brings, there's a Pirish HaPhilosophin. They give a reason for it, and the Alter Rebbe says that's not the real reason. The Alter Rebbe gives a different reason. The Philosophim, the philosophers that the Alter Rebbe quotes are not Chatz v'Shalom Epizgoyish philosophers. That's a Pirish from Gedolei Yisrael, like the Rebbe's Mitzayim, that Gedolei Yisrael, Chachmei Yisrael, Svarim say that answer. Elamai, it's not the Pirish al Pipnimi. Not only that, in Mamorei Chassidus and the Rebbe's Maimer Isha Kitazriya, the Rebbe gives a place for those answers, even al Pichsidus. That's not the ultimate answer al Pichsidus. So when the Rebbe Marash is speaking about a Welt, he's not speaking about a Preste Welt, a Puste Welt. He's talking about a Teradike Welt. So da Mokim in Seichel von Teira, that says as mechanisch darunter geht min a river. It has to come, the Rebbe Marash to be mechadish, this approach of Lechatchila Rebbe, and had to come the Rebbe to turn that into our cornerstone of our existence. So let's think what it means. What's the approach of the Welt? The Welt says someone, let's say Chas v'Shalom, has a difficulty in livelihood. He's not making a good enough living. He's not making a parnasa. No, so the Torah says, so his approach is first that he'll try this, the stock market. He'll try to put in more hours. He'll make a keli and teva, a keli according to nature that he hopes is going to work. And he knows if Chas v'Shalom it doesn't work, he always could fall back on the Eibishter. There's always the Eibishter. There's always bitachon, hashlecha lavaya yehavcha v'hu yichal kelecha. But first try to work with your kelim. Try to work with the b'chol hashatasa. It makes sense. What's wrong with that? Gleib doch eichen Gott. Gleib doch eichen the Eibishter. So what's this? What's the chisaron that he first tries with the worldly way? The Rabbi Marash says, "Lechatchila Rebbe, don't first say if the world doesn't work. You have to go Lechatchila Rebbe." Lechatchila Rebbe, let's say that example is the approach that he doesn't recognize the world to begin with. His approach is Einig Movade. The Rabbi Marash demanded from us, "Valazeh is the emes." Of course, you could fall back on the Eibishter when other things don't work. Aber das is nicht the emes. The emes is that Einig Movade. The emes is that emes havaya le'elam, that everything is holocaust. And therefore, Lechatchila Rebbe, from the beginning, we have to pick ourselves above the hanachis of ha'elam, above the perspective that sees the world as a mitzias, that sees the world as our existence. We have to live with our connection with the Eibishter as being our only reality. This is like the Pirish Rashi, the Pashta Taich of what's demanded, of what the Lechatchila Rebbe means. So together with saying the Piskam, we have to each find how we translate it Adaita de Nafshe. Each one of us has the other different applications. Each one of us has different areas in our life where we have to live more in a Lechatchila Rebbe way. Each one of us have different ways where we could tap in to the Meredike power, the force of Lechatchila Rebbe to get beyond our challenges and our obstacles. But we have to translate it, Adaita de Nafshe, know what it means to us and what it applies to us. I remember when I was a bacher learning in California. So this was in the Tafshim Mem Hey Mem Vav, and that was before it was completely materialized. But Rab Shlomo Kunin had already his Aschalta de Geula, that he got a will from this lady, that she wrote him a big will, and that was his Pesach for Yeshua, which ended up getting him a lot of money that pulled him out then from his tzaros, that the Rebbe had promised him, and he knew it's going to come, and there it came. So one day, the yeshiva, all the bachrim in the yeshiva, we were taken to the airport because he had a Sefer Torah written. So this lady who wrote him the will committed suicide. And then he contested, the will was contested, and he went to court, and then finally he won it. But in the meantime, she gave him his keli for the bracha that the Rebbe gave him to be extricated from his tzaros. So he had a Sefer Torah written in her memory. And we all went to the airport, the whole yeshiva, when the Sefer Torah arrived from New York. So we all went to be Mekabel Panim the Sefer Torah and to bring it back to yeshiva. So there was a whole yeshiva. What was it then? 75 bachrim. And the airport in Los Angeles is like not a big place. It's a narrow airport. We were on the street, like right by the doors to the airport, the street where the cars come to pick up people. It's very pushy over there. That's where the police are pushing the cars. And when the Sefer Torah come, and Rabbi Kuna was there, and the Anhalas Yeshiva was there, and when the Sefer Torah was coming out, he told all the bachrim to start dancing by the sidewalk and by the road right in front of the airport. The road, like the driveway over there. Los Angeles, by the airport, by LAX, that's not a place where you want to be dancing. It's not a place where you want to make a commotion. They're the police in California are b'chal very tough and they're very trigger happy and everything, and they don't go for no monkey business. So he's standing in the middle of the circle, Rabbi Kunin, and the Bachrim are dancing, and he's screaming, "Tanz, tanz, tanz!" So sure enough, within 2 minutes, police comes over and he tries to ask what's going on. So the simple approach, I was a new Bacher, I just came to learn in the yeshiva. And I thought the normal thing is talk to a policeman. You can explain to him, as I say, for whatever, explain. Tell him something and work with him, at least. Rabbi Bekuna was in the middle of the circle and he screams at the Bachim, red nicht mit them, tanz, 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 red nicht mit them. That's what he instructed. So everyone danced, and the policeman is just trying to tell everyone to stop making a commotion. And no one's misyachas to him, no one's listening to him, no one's looking at him, and he's telling us to dance. I was not used to these things. I'm sitting over there, I'm waiting. Probably in 5 minutes, we're all going to get arrested and put into the dungeon and put into who knows what. Yeah, it's a crazy way to deal with the situation, but nothing to do. The policeman tried for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And sure enough, everyone's ignoring him. He got on his radio, he called for reinforcements. And in the middle, tanz, guck dich das sehen, wer ist das Ball, tanz. So the Abish had geholfen, so the next policeman came and recognized Rabbi Kidden, I guess. He said, that Meshuggah there, don't even bother, just let them do whatever they're doing. So they went. So that was my first experience, I guess, with Lechatchila River. In a practical day-to-day life. It's just you don't try with the approaches that make sense, and if that doesn't work, then you always have something else to try back on. Das ist nicht da. Das ist da, ist nur lechatchila riba. But everyone has to find it. We all have the arunters in our lives. We all have the obstacles that we need to be raised above. And we have to find our lechatchila riba, adaita de nafshei, vas meita sumir. What does it mean in my Avedas Hashem? What does it mean in my davening and learning? And what does it mean in my yachas with those in Yoni Ha'ilam that I have to deal with, that I have to struggle with, that I have to engage with and come in contact with? And how does this have to define my approach and my way of dealing with it? So the first thing is, as lechatchila riber should be by all of us lechatchila riber, and the Eibusher should pull everyone away from their tzaris and out of their difficulties and out of their challenges. And alachatchila riber dikeifen, and mizalareis tatze from Golos, and alachatchila riber dikeifen. So since it's lechatchila riber, let's say lechayim and lamer anid mitanigim with lechatchila riber, lechayim lebracha. Ya 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 ya. Yeah, 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 Hi,
La, la.
hi, l'chaim, 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 l'bracha. Turn on your videos. Let me see your cups, and let me see you saying l'chaim, l'chaim, l'bracha.
Chaim.
L'chaim, l'bracha. Before I continue, I want to say again a big yashakeach to Moshe Frank for being tireless and nudging me to do this Farbrengen again, and for arranging it and organizing it behind the scenes. There's a story that every city, every village, and every city has to have all the professionals of the city. And in Lubavitch also, there was the professionals. There was the different professionals. A city needs a tailor, and a city needs a shoemaker. So one of the professions that you have to have in every city for it to be like it says in the Mishnah, has a list. In order to be living in a city, it has to have the Asara Batlanim, and it says because of each one has to fill a certain need. So it says in Lubavitch there was the different professions. One of the professions was the Shtatz Meshugana. Every city has to have a Shtatz Meshugana. So in Lubavitch there was also the Shtatz Meshugana, the ones that the kids run after him and laugh at him. You know, in yeshiva, the Bachram call him a magnet. Every yeshiva has to have a magnet. If it's the bigger yeshiva, the more magnets. So then they weren't so sophisticated. It was simple. They called it a Shtatz Meshugana. So in Lubavitch, there was also a Shtatz Meshugana. One day, the Shtatz Meshugana wakes up. Everyone goes into Yechidus to the Rebbe Marash. He wants to also go into Yechidus to the Rebbe Marash. He has a question. He has an important question. He wants to go into the Rebbe Marash. He told him, what are you going into the Rebbe Marash to Mr. Meshugana? He said, no, he has a question. So they didn't let him in. He's a Meshugana. The last thing they need, they let a Meshugana into the Rebbe. The Rebbe Marash used to go every single day in his chariot, based on spazieren. So one day, the Rebbe Marash is going with his wagon with the 4 white horses. And mitamal, this Meshugana jumps onto the wagon. Before anyone knew what was happening, he jumped onto the wagon. Once he's on the wagon, he started talking to the Rebbe Marash. No one could do anything. So he traveled together with the Rebbe Marash for a while, and then he jumped off. I don't know if it was the same Meshugana. It says the Rebbe Marash was once traveling, and in the way they passed on the side of the road, they passed as one of the Shtatz Meshugana was sitting on a big rock, sitting. So the Rebbe Marash stopped the wagon, and he went over to called over the Meshugana. He said, "What are you doing?" He says, "You look like you're very tired." He said, "Rebbe, was meint es ist grün zu sein am Meshugana?" So Al Kapanim, so this Meshugana jumped off the wagon. The Chassidim accosted him. They surrounded him. They said, "What did you speak to the Rebbe about?" Now he's already a miyuchas. Doch gerät mit the Rebbe Marash. He said, "What did you speak to the Rebbe about?" So he said that I had a shaila. My shaila was, he said, I'm here the only Meshugana in Lubavitch. He said, I have a friend in a bigger city, and over there's enough business for 2 Meshugaim. He invited me to come join him, and we'll be 2 Meshugaim. So I know that before I do something, I have to ask the Rebbe. I went to the Rebbe Marash. I asked the Rebbe. So the Chassidim asked him, so what was the answer? What did the Rebbe Marash tell you? So he said, the Rebbe told me that Lubavitch daf eicha b'nir Meshugana. Yeah, Taka over there is a bigger city. So they asked him, but how do you chatzich on this hamsa? Yes, you're the Meshugana. How do you figure out? Everyone's trying to prevent, all us normal people are trying to, you managed to get past everyone. You managed to outsmart everyone and to get to speak Marash about your issue. How'd you do that? So he told them, Meshuga al b'seichel daf min haben. Meshuga al b'seichel daf min haben. Was meint the Meisa? We're learning now Saita. And Saita means the name of the Masechta, the meaning of the word, Chazal teaches us means Meshuga. Seita comes from the root kisista, says the Gemara, Ein Adam Ever Avera Elam Kein Nichnas Beiruach Shtus. Seita comes from the word shtus. The Gemara says it on the word seita. And like Chassidus teaches us, Afilu Isha Mina Efes Shedaita Kala, even this seita who's like so lacking in basic morality, if she's doing an Avera, it's a Ruach Shtus. Seita is about this mishagas that causes someone to do something he's not supposed to do. Says Chassidus, what's this mishuga? What's this Ruach Shtus? In was pastate, someone does an Avera, he's bad. Why is it called a Ruach Shtus? They say a story that a lady came once to the Rav, and she started crying to the Rav. She said, Rabbi, give me a bracha. She said, Rabbi, my zun is gevarim mishuga. My son went crazy. Give me a help me. She's crying. So the Rav says, What's gishan? What happened? Your son went crazy? So she said, my son went crazy as mishuga gevarim. Erst chazer and tanzt mit Meidlach. Bracha tut das al chazachen. He went crazy. So the Rav says, er ist nicht gevarim mishuga. Said, wollte gegessen Meidlach und getanzt mit Chazerim, ist gevarim mishuga. Als tanzt mit Meidlach und Chazerim, ist normal. Hat Yitzhahara. Das ist nicht mishuga. So that's the story. But the Gemara says not like that. It says, Ever Aveira, that is mishuga. That is a Ruach Shtus. Says Chassidus, why is that a Ruach Shtus? Because a person convinces himself as there is a denu biyaduse. A person does something that the Eibishter said not to do, is bistunishta. You're separating yourself from the Eibishter. You can't do what the Eibishter wants and then say you're still buddy, you're still part of the group. If he convinces himself he's a denu biyaduse, that's a Ruach Shtus. That's a spirit of folly, of foolishness, that's convincing him to be irrational, because if he was thinking rationally, it would be not possible for him to behave like that. That's what Seita means. So we say Meshuga is someone who convinces himself that when he's doing something, it's not having consequences when it does. This everybody knows, right? It's Tanya, it's Basiligani, this is Aleph Beis. But let's just translate it for ourselves, because the same thing is with a chassid. It's with the behavior of a chassid, that sometimes we could be meshuga. That's what Seita is. That's what the theme of the 49 days of Sfira is. Seita, Tista, Milashon Shtus. Ein adam ever aver elam kein nichnas beiruach shtus. We're chassidim, right? We're Lubavitch chassidim. We have the biggest fortune, the greatest fortune in the world, that we're Lubavitch chassidim. Ashreinu, Matev chalkeinu, Manoim geraleinu, Mayafa Yerushaseinu. There was a person in Toronto, a balabas, a Lubavitcher balabas, who's a successful balabas. He's well, the Torontonians, you all know him. Yeah. And he's a professional, but he's a Chassidish, he comes from a very Chassidish family. So he likes to say l'chaim when there's the pagra, when there's a good occasion. So once he had a Farbrengen in his house, and he took a lot of mashka. But he davens in A'ilu Mishashul, as a Litzvah Shashul, Snagdi Shashul, other professionals like him. But he was after a lot of mashka, and he came into the shul, he was all excited from the mashka, from the Eibishter, from his nefesh kids, from everything together, you know what it is. So he came into the shul, for mincha, whatever it is, everyone's gathered together, and he gets up to the bima, and he calls out, Baruch Ata Hashem with B'Shemu Malchus. He makes a bracha. Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Shalei Yasani Misnagid. The whole shul is misnagdim, but he's a professional. He's a doctor. He's a this. So no one could say anything to him. That's a ragish lungin. But that feeling that's behind that bracha, we all have that, right? We all have the appreciation, Matev Chalkeinu, Manoim Geraleinu, Mayafa Yerushaseinu, that I'm a Jew and I'm a Chassid and I'm a Lubavitcher Chassid. We feel fortunate about that, right? We appreciate that. Every Chassid appreciates that. That sometimes there's certain things that you can't do that if you're a Chassid. And I want to Let's talk about that. I'll give you a few basic examples because we have to remind ourselves because we forget about that. Because we have this ruach shtus. We have this irrational folly as, it's not so bad. I'm a chassid anyways. When someone else wants to be a chassid, he has to work very hard. He has to be mevater. There was a big Farbrengen today. It's still going on, I think. So someone said a story, Rabbi Slavititsky, that he was on a plane coming from an event where he spoke. And someone came over to him about Shuvah, who's now with a beard and with a kapata mistam and everything. But he came over to him on the plane. And he was saying to him that when he became frum, he started keeping Torah mitzvahs. At that time, he was in a relationship with a shiktzah, lo yaleinu. And he had to separate from her. And it was the Mesiras Nefesh. It took tremendous inner keiches, tremendous struggle, tremendous fight. And for years, he was describing that he was going back and forth because it was like tearing off a limb. It was a huge price. It was a huge fight, a huge sacrifice that he had to make. But he went ahead with it. And eventually, like I said, grew a beard and a kapata. But he did it because he saw as das is the emes. And that emes justified this struggle and this sacrifice because this is real, because this is meaningful, because this is what he wants in life. And he was asking Rabbi Slavititsky, Chassidim know that it's emes. A chassid who's not he wakes up every day and he knows this. Ashreinu matev chalkeinu umanoim geraleinu mayafi yerushaseinu. So how come he's still struggling with certain things that are much smaller struggles than what this Jew had to do to give up something that was a part of his life already? We have the Ashreinu matev chalkeinu umanoim geraleinu mayafi yerushaseinu, and yet there's a ruach shtus. So first of all, there's a ruach shtus in basics. There's things that it's not about being a chassid, it's about being a Jew that the Gemara is talking about. I don't want to give up here, give up some shmuz and chase everyone away, chas v'shalom. But I want to do address there's certain basic things, especially now that we're at home and we're in quarantine and we're not with the same regular schedule that sometimes keeps us. And we have to remember there's certain basics. You're a Yid, you're a Shemer Teiro mitzvahs, you're a Yid who does what the Eibishter wants. So a Yid has a mitzvah essay deraisa every day to say Krishma on time. It can't be, we have a ruach, someone who knows that he would never chas v'shalom dream of doing an Avera. And somehow, as my Krishma, we brush under the carpet. You wouldn't dream, I hope, of going on a trip somewhere and not taking tefillin with you. There's people who do that. Ask every shliach who's there favarfing somewhere, how often he gets a call from a frum Yid who came to his city and he realized, doesn't have his tefillin, doesn't have his lulav and esrog, and he thinks that's the reason why the Rebbe established Chabad houses, and maybe that is part of the reason. That the Rebbe established a Chabad house, so he should be able to forget his tefillin, and it's the shliach's responsibility to drop everything and get him tefillin. No, at least the guy is looking for the tefillin when he forgets it. But a chassid, I hope you are not going to travel somewhere and not have your tefillin with you and then say, I'm ma'inus. You're not going to go to sleep and say, I'm ma'inus. I woke up. That's mechanish for felon, a mitzvah deraisa, and convince yourself that they then be adusay. But that's the basics. That's not a chiddush of chassidus. That's not a chiddush of a chassid. That's not a chiddush of the ashreinu matev chalkeinu manoim geraleinu umayafe yerushaseinu of being a chassidus Chabad. But let's take that a little further, as Lubavitch Chassidim. There's a story by one of the Asifas Harabanim that the Friedrich Rebbe was being Meshamish Rab Chaim Brisker. Friedrich Rebbe was then a Bacher. And Rab Chaim Brisker was Rab Chaim Brisker. He was very, very close with the Rebbe Rashab, and they did a lot of Inyanim and Askanos together. And the Friedrich Rebbe says that Reb Chaim Brisker was very mekar of him also. He was like taking care of Reb Chaim, and he told him a lot of stories, a famous story about the Beis Halevi, later the Gemaisa, that he said the Rebbe Rashab had a lot of hana from the Maisa. One of the stories, but it says that the Reb Chaim was talking to the Rebbe Rashab once. It was one day when they were there, and Reb Chaim was there with Mesiras Nefesh, giving up his yeshiva, giving up his working Pashat in Askonas Tziburius, together side by side with the Rebbe Rashab, to help Yidden, to help Yiddishkeit. That's what he was there doing. And that particular day they had been up the night before, very, very, very late, because of Askonas, with their working, with the muchiness, with trying to whatever Indian they were trying to accomplish. So the Reb Chaim was saying to the Rebbe Rashab that we went to sleep very, very late. So this morning he said, I woke up late and I saw Esezat man Kriyashma. So I had to say Kriyashma in my bed in pajamas. Nicht chatz v'shalom, verspätig ins man Kriyashma, that's the mitzvah deraisa. So the Friedrich Rebbe was there, and the Friedrich Rebbe said, either the Friedrich Rebbe said, I'm a snagdish Kriyashma, or the Friedrich Rebbe said, I'm a snagid is a dover mizuam. I'm a snagid is a miyasa thing. Like I said, Kriyashma in your pajamas. And the Friedrich Rebbe says the story, but he doesn't say all the details. And he says, and das Gedarf stiller heit herabschlingen. He said, Reb Chaim had to accept it. He knew that he's right. That this is passing out from his nagel. So let's think about that. You know, sometimes a guy will think, what's the pshat in the Maisa? That I wake up in the morning and I see it's almost man Krishma, and I don't want to chas v'shalom say I'm a snagdish Krishma in my pajamas. Gehe ich zurück schlafen. Yeah, that's nicht the hira for the Maisa. You can't be convincing yourself, you can't be convincing yourself I'm a chassid and I'm a Lubavitcher chassid. Krishma v'ya chassid. Krishma v'ya chassid, that means like me, boy, of course, that you get up from mitzvah deraisa. It can't be otherwise. And you wake up like a chassid. You go to sleep like a chassid and you wake up like a chassid. We have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves and demand from ourselves. Like this Meshuggah said, Meshuggah, Berseichel darf man haben. That we can't have a limit how much we could convince ourselves and distort ourselves that I'm still a chassid and I'm fine, but how are you behaving? What's the pshat Krishma and pajamas? Krishma and pajamas is the pshat. Pajamas is the clothing that we wear when we sleep. We sleep at a time when Reishei Veraglov, there's no hierarchy in your limbs. Usually it's supposed to be the head is higher, the feet are lower. There's a whole Seder Misuder that a person is created that Mayach Shalet ala Lev B'Teva Tildasi. But we convince ourselves, but when we sleep, it's that everything is equal and everything is the same. When we say Kriyashma, at least, then we're supposed to be with our regular Tzir Kaima. A pajamas Kriyashma is a Kriyashma wo se herzlich nicht an der Ben Adam. Se herzlich nicht an der Maila Sameichem. If you're a chassid, it's not enough that you wake up in the morning and obviously you say Meida Ani, like a soldier, like a chassid says Meida Ani. And obviously you wash Negelwasser, via chassid gis Negelwasser. And you say brachas, like a chassid said brachas. And you say Krishma in time, because that's a mitzvah. That's not enough. If you're a chassid, it has to be as a chassidische Krishma. A chassidische Kriyashma is that your Kriyashma starts off your day with reminding yourself what you're saying. It says Havaya Echad. Havaya Echad is not in pajamas. In pajamas, the pajamas. It's something that it's your whole mitzias. It's not something that you're saying words. So this is a nice speech for a chassidische Farbrengen, right? If you're thinking it's a nice speech for a chassidische Farbrengen, that's the ruach shtus. That means you, me, all of us. Sometimes each of us with something else. We're convinced chassid. I could be a devil chassid, and I'm not so perfect in my Meidani, in my Krishma, and my Krishma Shalamita. Each of us have whatever. It doesn't matter. So you make a big thing. It's not the end of the world. I still have a Lubavitcher hat, and I'm wearing a Lubavitcher tefillin, and I'm wearing. So that's our ruach shtus. That's where we have to come to the seichel daf min hadben. We have to get beyond that. It comes of Farbrengen lechatchila riber. Lechatchila riber means that you could come with hanachas ha'elam. You could look from worldly perspective, and when that stops working, then I fall back on my ened muvade. That's how the Rebbe Marash does take this. A chassid is lechatchila riber. A chassid lep mitalikus. On a duleps mitalikus, so that has to reflect itself first and foremost. And right in the beginning of the day, in Krishma, I'm giving you one example. There's a lot of examples, but start from the beginning. You wake up on time and you say Krishma the way a chassid says Krishma. You know, you speak to people who learned in Brunois by Rabbi Nissen. So one of the things that I heard from a few of his Talmidim, they all said the same thing. One of the things that a number of them said, so apparently that was something that was noticeable by him. They said that Rabbi Nissen every day in the Zal said Krishma Ketana, said Krishma before davening, said Krishma, because davening was going to be later. And they said when he said Krishma, so you saw how he's Pashut working and focusing and thinking, being mizbeinen with his full effort. The Chareintrachten, the Shema Yisrael, Avaya Elokeinu Avaya Echad. That was Rab Nissen. Rab Nissen was a Anak Shabanakim, yeah. But that's something that everyone will from Shira delay. You're saying Krishma every day, give a pause. You're learning Chassidus. Everything you're learning Chassidus, right? Because that's the second thing. Yeah, I'm jumping ahead of myself. But just giving you examples. The second area where we have our Ruach Shtus, another primary area is if you're not learning Chassidus. If we're not learning, everyone has their shiurim. Everyone has their amounts, yeah, that it has to be. You have to figure out how much you're supposed to be learning. But if I'm not learning Chassidus, mitvas to a chassid, we have to be learning Chassidus. We can't be Yitzhak, ich bin sheina chassid, I'm a Eved already. Ben Eved elikim l'asher lo yavadeh. I already reached there. I already did it. There's no such a thing. A chassid means, because Lepeya, we're learning, actively learning Chassidus. We have to be every day knowing, what did I learn? It could be it's a parak echad shachris and a parak echad avis. It could be you have the tirdes or whatever. But you have to figure out what is your minimum, and you have to be learning Chassidus. And if you're learning Chassidus, what are we learning about in Chassidus? We're learning about Havaya Echad. If we're learning Chassidus, we have to be able to be putting in that effort to verstehen was meint Havaya Echad. It can't be that I convince myself that no, I'm fine, I'm a good chassid without this. This is a ruach shtus. This is what Chassidus is. This is what we were trained. This is what the Rabbeim were pouring into us, the Chassidus, that we should learn it, understand about Achtus Havaya, and apply it and say Shema Yisrael Havaya Elokeinu Havaya Echad. I once heard an argument between two Chassidish Yidden. So one of them, it wasn't really an argument, it was talking on cross, but whatever. But one of them was very cooked up that someone mentioned, that someone said that Rabbi Nissen was a Beinani. Yeah. So this Chassidish Yid was very angered. What do you mean? It's not true. He wasn't a Beinani. What do you say? Only a David or a Docker was a Beinani. Rabbi Nissen was a Beinani. Yeah. So the other Chassidish Yid said, what's the difference? He said he was a Yid who worked with all his keches to din and Eibishter. Why nafkamina if he was a Beinani, if he had the title, what is it, the Gi in Aravidus Hashem? So I want to tell you, if Rab Nissen was a Beinani, that's not Negiatas. The Aveda of a Beinani is maybe beyond our reach. There's two levels in a Beinani. Yeah, The Beinani, we learn in Ve'ela Mishpatim, the Iker Madreges HaBeinani, that's something that we have to work a lot of years on. That's what Chassidim said, Halavai HaBeinani. HaBeinani and Sur Meira and Asay Tev, that's Daf Yederein and Halt by them. That there's no excuse, that there's no defense from. But the real Beinani, yeah, that takes a lot of work. But to be what the second Chassidish Yid described Rab Nissen, Ayid was Pashat Arbet Avdin in the Eibishter, that's something that's what's the expectation of each of us, Kol Chad L'fum Shiura Delay, to work on implementing, internalizing into your life. That's what's das gelehrt in Chassidus, that's what's das gehört by Chassidische Farbrengen, what we were brought up with and what we were trained with and what we heard and went in Siches and Mamorim and Farbrengens. Work on it. Work on making that real as a big tanzich. A little more effort to make it come into another part of my day. Whatever it means, each one of us knows what our next step is. So in Kriyashma, you say a Kriyashma, Chassidus, a Kriyashma means that you're learning something in Chassidus. And when you say Kriyashma, take an extra second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and think, what did I learn in Chassidus that allows me to understand what does it mean to me, Havayach? The Rebbe said a story a few times. The Rebbe said a story about the Friedrich Rebbe started visiting Germany, and he was the Yekish Yidden, he was talking to them about learning Chassidus, and they started learning Chassidus. And the Rebbe said, how the Friedrich Rebbe said, how the next time he went back there, so one of the Yekish Yidden was telling the Friedrich Rebbe how he started learning Chassidus. And he started being mizbeinin by Krishma, like you're supposed to in Chassidus. And it came to the point, he said, that he was mizbeinin in Havaya Echad. He was beinin in Shema, he was mizbeinin in Shema Yisrael, fasta eine minute, the Rebbe said this. Almost a minute. So there's two sides of what the Rebbe said about this story. The Rebbe said the story a few times. On one hand, the Rebbe said, Kilu, like this person is being mizbeinin in Havaya Echad. What's Havaya Echad? Havaya Echad is Nishtak in Welt. Havaya Echad is Haya, Heve, Via Kechad, L'mayla min Azman, and L'mayla min Amakim. Welt, world, Arunter, the Arunter that we're trying to get away from is Manu Makim. That's what defines the world. Havaya is higher than the world. This Jew already started learning Chassidus, and he already was getting higher than the world. But his higher than the world was still mugbal in Zman, fasta eine minuta. He was still measuring in time how long his beininus in haya via kachas. But mitzat sheni, and other times when the Rebbe said the story, the Rebbe pointed out the Lumal Yusa. And let's talk about ourselves. How many of us are being misbeinin in Havaya Echad, fasta eine minuta? And the Rebbe touched this when the Rebbe said the story. He said, it's less than a minute. What's this shir of fasta eine minuta? It's less than a minute, but it's not, as the Rebbe said, it's already from seconds, it's already out, something like that. It's not seconds anymore. You're out of the realm of seconds. You're holding already almost by a minute. If you try to measure yourself, put on the stopwatch, next time you say Shema Yisrael, you'll see that's a long time for being misbeinin in Havaya Echad. So if we're not holding by fasta eine minuta yet, maybe some of you are, but we could add on a few seconds to wherever we're holding. That's kan yeder einer tam. That's the basics of Chassidus. This is not a big darga in Avedis Hashem. This is the reason why the Rabbeim are pouring into us hashpois of Chassidus, that we should say Havaya Echad differently, that we should say Shema Yisrael, that we should say I'm fine without this. That's what Saita is. That's what the Ruach Shtus is, that I convince myself I denu biyadusay. If I want to be excited, which we all do, if I want to appreciate the Ashreinu, Matev Chalkeinu, Umanoim Geiraleinu, Mayafa Yerushaseinu, it has to be Chalkeinu and Geiraleinu and Yerushaseinu. It has to be something that's really meaningful in my life, because I act differently because of it. I act differently in my Shema Yisrael, in my Havaya Echad, in my brachas. in every part of my life. There's a mashal Chassidim used to say that there was once a king that he had a son. All the Mishalim have a king and a prince, right? If not, where would we be without the kings and the princes and the Mishalim? So the king had a son, the prince, the crown prince, and it was a terrible tragedy in the country that the crown prince went crazy and he convinced himself that he's a chicken, that he's a rooster. Woke up one day and he's not eating, he's not sitting by the table anymore because he's a chicken. He's on the floor. Chickens don't eat by a table. He's not sleeping in a bed anymore because a chicken doesn't sleep in the bed. He's sleeping on the floor. He's not having an alarm clock anymore because a chicken, a rooster that makes a cock-a-doodle-doo when the sun comes up. He doesn't need an alarm clock. Anyways, it was terrible. It was a scandal. They didn't know what to do. So there's two Mishalim that start off this way. Maybe there was two different crown princes who both suffered from this terrible ailment. But Al Kapanim, this is one of the Mishalim that Chassidim said. They tried all the doctors and all the medications and all the. It's a terrible thing because they have to. It looks very bad. Finally, they found one psychiatrist. He said, "I'm going to cure the prince." Right? No, the king is going to give him the Itzer Hamulucha Kol Kesef Izav Shabaylam. Said, "I'm going to cure him." So he comes and he says, he sits down on the floor next to the prince. So the prince says, "What are you doing over here?" Was tust du da? So the psychiatrist said, "What are you doing here?" So the prince said, "I'm here because I'm a chicken and I sit on the floor." So the psychiatrist says, "I'll tell you the truth. I came to the realization I'm also a chicken. That's why I'm sitting next to you. Make some space. Now you're lucky. You have two chickens." Crown Prince is thinking this guy doesn't look like a chicken, but the truth is he also doesn't look like a chicken. What? Who knows? Maybe we'll have two chickens. It was Taka getting lonely. I'll have some company. So it could be a positive thing. They're sitting together. It comes lunchtime, and the Crown Prince is like eating the crumbs from the floor, like he's been doing the last few days, like every good chicken does. The psychiatrist takes up from his pocket a sandwich, and he unwraps the sandwich, and he starts eating the sandwich. "What are you doing? I thought you said you're a chicken. You joined, you saw the light, you realized you're a chicken. What are you doing?" He said, "I'm eating my lunch." He said, "No, your chicken doesn't eat a sandwich. A chicken eats the crumbs from the floor." So the psychiatrist says, "You don't understand. I'm a modern chicken. It used to be chickens ate the crumbs from the floor, but I'm more sophisticated. I'm developed, and I eat a sandwich. I'm still a chicken. You could be a chicken and you could eat a sandwich." He's trying to slowly rehabilitate the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince thinks that's a crazy idea. A modern chicken eats a sandwich, but who knows? It comes the nighttime. The Crown Prince lays down on the floor like a good normal chicken. And the psychiatrist takes out a folding cot and he unfolds the folding cot and he takes a pillow and a blanket. And the Crown Prince says, "What are you doing?" He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "A chicken sleeps on the floor. He doesn't sleep on a cot." So the psychiatrist says, "No, you're wrong. You're an old-fashioned chicken. I'm a modern chicken. I'm sophisticated. I'm more developed. I'm more with the times. And today, we chickens, we could sleep on a cot. It's more comfortable. And I'm still a chicken. Doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from being a chicken." I never heard of such a thing. This is like tsunami courses, but who knows? The Crown Prince knows the truth is that he only became a chicken himself recently. And maybe he's not the biggest expert in chickens. He has a little bit of bittul also, so he's ready to accept it. Then comes the morning, and the Crown Prince is waiting for the first sign of light so he could make his cock-a-doodle-doo. And he sees the psychiatrist has his alarm clock next to his bed. The alarm clock starts ringing. He looks at, "What is going on with you?" "What do you mean?" "It's my alarm. I set my alarm. Yeah, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever. I set my alarm." "What kind of an alarm?" "We're chickens. We crow in the morning, right? We crow. What kind of an alarm?" He says, "I'm a modern chicken. The same spiel. I'm a modern chicken. I'm sophisticated. I'm with the times. I'm more developed." Finally, the Crown Prince says, "This is too much." He says, "You're not eating like a chicken. You're not going to sleep like a chicken, and you're not getting up like a chicken. You're not a chicken. No more. So Chassidim said, as me esst nicht wie a Chassid, und me geht nicht schlafen wie a Chassid, und me steht nicht auf wie a Chassid, is mit was bist du a Chassid? You have to know we can't fall prey, we can't fall victim to this Ruach Shtus that convinces us that it's okay, you're still a Chassid. Du kannst essen, wie du willst essen, du kannst gehen schlafen, wie du gehst schlafen. It says, the Chassidim used to say a word. They say, Oven yachshev al mishkave, yisyatsev al derech, loite, v'rolo yimas. So Chassidim used to say, Oven yachshev al mishkave. If someone thinks machshav zaros when he goes to bed, when you go to bed, so you're finished already. You're finished learning, even if you learn shiurim and more shiurim and more shiurim, you're going to bed already. That's gandik midayne shiurim. And not everyone has a divrei Torah in his head until he falls asleep. You're supposed to prepare, but sometimes if a guy doesn't put in a lot of effort in that, so you lie in bed, they said, Yaven yachshev al mishkave, yisyatsev al derech loitev, and he wakes up al derech loitev. Chassidim said, if a person puts his feet on the ground before he washes negelvasser, that's yisyatsev al derech loitev. Stellt sich avek in nicht kein guter Weg. He puts his feet on the ground before you wash the negelvasser. The feet are not allowed to touch the ground. If he does, he oven yachshev al mishkave yisyatsev al derech loitev, then the result is ra lo yimas. He's not going to be meyis bara. He's not going to be disgusted. He's not going to be upgefrekt by him ra. By a chassid is supposed to be upgefrekt ra, at least to a degree, everyone to his level. One of the Beis Iyar mamarim, in the Mugadik mamarim, right? We're all sitting at home and going through all the sichas every week and all the mamarim every week. What do we have to do with our lives over here in these crazy quarantines, except for reading all the bad news all over the world? So So one of the Beis Iyar mamarim is short maimer Gano. And God know, the Rabbi speaks about the union of God know that not only it's God know b'negeya to ma'aseh b'peil sur meira and asay tev, but God know is nicht haben a geschmack in taivas elamaza. To some level, that's the basics that Yidden are oigdin pischein, says in the Maimer, that they don't allow themselves to have an enjoyment in worldly pleasures. Their enjoyment is in Elokus. So when it's oven yachshev al mishkave, yisyatsev al derech loy tayv, yemot Israel lo yimas. Das heißt, me geht nicht schlafen wie a Chassid und me steht nicht auf wie a Chassid. So then let me nicht wie a Chassid. The Seita, the Ruach Shtus, tries to convince us that it doesn't matter. A person looks at himself and he sees in the mirror a Chassid, a respectable Chassid, a big Chassid, the top chassid. So I didn't learn chassidus today. I was busy sleeping. I was busy askanos. I was busy catching up with the dvar b'telim. I was busy arranging. I don't know what. I have nicht gedavent wie a chassid daven. And who says that that's nicht wie a chassid? If I daven like that, so if I say that's a chassidische davening, and like this, we make calculations for everything. And you know that's nicht kein chassid, because you know, yeah. Ask ourselves, how do we want our kids to daven? We know that they don't want them to daven the way we daven. There's a famous story. They say this: two women came to the Rav for a dintera, and the Rav said, "This one is right, this one is wrong." So the woman who was wrong started cursing out the Rav. Yeah, what do you do when you lose the dintera? You curse out the Rav, right? What do you do when you curse out the Rav? Cursing out the Rav. So the Rebbitzin didn't like that because it's her husband and it's the Rav, whatever. But so the Rebbitzin says to Rav, how do you let such a thing? Chutzpah, she's cursing out the Rav. So the Rav says she doesn't mean it. He says, I'll prove it to you. He calls over the woman who's cursing him out. He says to her, would you want that I give you a bracha that you have children like me? She says, Halavai, if only. So he says to her. You want to know what a person really values? What do you want your kids to do? Ask yourself, how do I want my kids to daven? How do I want my kids to wake up in the morning? If that's the way I want them to wake up, then I can't allow myself to daven and wake up in the morning differently. Man darf gehen schlafen wie ein Chassid, und man darf aufstehen wie ein Chassid, und man darf essen wie ein Chassid. We have to be ourselves. That's l'chatchila riber. Our living ourselves in a worldly way is because we're engulfed, we're drowning, we're imprisoned in the Hanachas Ha'elam, we're imprisoned in the world. And we have to extricate ourselves. We have to get free of that. We have to get above that. In the whole world, the Eibishter, everyone says this. Everyone sees this now. You see a world that's coming closer to Mashiach. You see a world that the Hanachas, that the uplays, that the mindset was completely shattered. The dependencies, we were sure of ourselves. Us, the world, everyone. Our generation, we were sure of ourselves. Well, we're afraid of pandemics. We're afraid of pandemics in Africa. There could be pandemics, and we'll send goodwills. We'll send the people, the planes over there, and help over there. We'll be the ones saving them. In the 21st century, for us, we have doctors, and we have medicine, and we have science, and we have money, and we have superpowers. We have anything to be afraid of. It's like it was the furthest thing from anyone's mind. But suddenly, nobody could depend on anything. The world, the solidness, the security of the world is shattered. And from the perspective of the world, it could go on, like a Piderech HaTeva. What's happening, we see, is the Eibishter took the entire world and he shook it up and he said, you're not in control, I'm in control. But where does that go? Where do we go from there? That comes to us. We have to understand that in Elam Katan Zeha Adam, that the Eibishter is in control. And it's something that has to reflect itself. Till I said brachas, till I daven to the Eibishter, hab ich nicht getamid welt. There's a halacha that you're not allowed to eat before davening. As they state in Shulchan Aruch. We're chassidim, so we eat before davening. Right? There's a story with the Rebbe before the Nesius. The Rebbe was sitting once, I think in the sukkah is the story, and the Rebbe was eating. It was before davening. So someone commented to the Rebbe that there's fremde people, they see it's maybe not nice that they're seeing the Rebbe eating before davening. So the Rebbe said, Chassidim shemen sich nicht mit zeir aminik. Chassidus takes the Adirabba, we have the Hayin better essence to davening. We eat, because then we daven better, right? Hopefully we daven better. If we don't daven better, but at least we eat, right? There's a story with the Tzemach Tzedek, that a Chassid once went to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he told the Tzemach Tzedek that the doctors told him that he's not supposed to fast. So he wanted to know what to do. It was before a tinus. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, if the doctor said not to fast, so you don't fast. So the Chassid started walking away. The Tzemach Tzedek had like a window. He's sitting in a little room. He knocked on his window. The Chassid came back. He says to us, verstanden? He says to the Chassid, did you understand what I told you? He said, I'm sorry, he called him back. So the Chassid came back there. Tzemach Tzedek said to him, aber al tifresh min hatzibur. Al tifresh min hatzibur. Fine. So he started walking away. Tzemach Tzedek knocked on the window again. He called him back. He says, was geschehen? So the Tzemach Tzedek said, did you understand what I answered you? Did you understand my response when I said, al tifresh min hatzibur? So the Chassid said, yeah. He said, you told me that even though I'm allowed to eat, because the doctor said, but al tifresh min hatzibur, I should fast. So the Tzemach Tzedek told him, chas v'shalom, the doctor told you to eat, you have to eat, you're not allowed to fast. I said, al tifresh min hatzibur, that the minig is that every balabasta makes her husband a bigger meal before the fast and a bigger meal after the fast. So up fasting, so that even though you're not fasting, al tifresh min hatzibur, you should still have the extra bigger meal before and after the fast. So the same thing, some people is comes to davening, basic nicht, but the essen for davening, that's the kopanim, the al tifresh min hatzibur. But fine, we eat before davening because the eating is so the davening should be better. But the spirit of the law, the reason for not eating before davening is there by us. The reason for not eating is al techlu min al adam, because before we daven for the Eber to the Ebesh, the Hakmanish to Talmud in Yani Ha'ila. That's there by us. So eating, we still eat before davening because our eating is the Giyat davening. It's not in Yani Ha'ilam. It's part of our Achanas L'Tfilah. Aber andere in Yani Ha'ilam, you have nothing to do with that yet. You're getting ready to the Eibishter. Until you spoke to the Eibishter, is other do Zaks Braches, other do Lance Chassidus, or you can make all Chassidish Rikot, or you go to the mikveh. You're involved only with Kedusha. That's something that's shayich by all of us. Gein schlafen via chassid, aufstehen via chassid. That's what a chassid is. These are not dargis. These are not extra things. We're talking about that we have to stop misleading ourselves. We have to stop convincing ourselves that this doesn't matter because it matters. Midaf essen via chassid, gein schlafen via chassid, aufstehen via chassid. We have to find these basics. Learning chassidus is the basics of a chassid. You can't justify yourself that I'm doing other good things. Nein, a chassid must learn an avert chassidus. We have to learn chassidus on a daily basis. So one guy maybe only could learn 10 minutes. If that's what it is, just gerat midai mashpia, and he said, but that 10 minutes is chayk v'lo yaver. That 10 minutes is unavoidable because that's what defines you. Das is mishuga b'seichel daf min haben. That's we can't allow that ruach shtus to expand and to cover over every little bit of rationale that remains by us. There's a story with the Tzemach Tzedek. In the times of the Tzemach Tzedek, there was a chassid who was a melamed, and the melamed was very poor, like melamdim sometimes are, because besides that, melamdim don't make a very good salary. But also the fathers would bring the sons at the beginning of this man. And the fathers who were working in the fields, they didn't have money at that time. So they would come at the end of this man and they would pay. So even if the melamed is making enough money, but through the whole year he has expenses, he's living on nothing. So this melamed, he has to pay his bills, he has to pay his expenses, he has to buy his wife new clothes for Yontif. So he needed a loan. Who does he go to for a loan? He went to the Tzemach Tzedek for a loan. So the Tzemach Tzedek gave him a ruble. A ruble was a very significant amount of money, a very nice amount of money. But the Tzemach Tzedek asked him, when are you going to pay back? So the Melamed said, in the end of this man, when the parents come to pick up their sons, then most of them pay their salary for the year. So in the end of this man, I'll pay you up, I'll pay back the ruble, then I'll get paid, I'll pay back the ruble. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, okay, gave him a ruble, and he said, aber gedenk, remember, don't forget, in the end of this man, that's when you have to pay it up. The Melamed has a ruble, he has to pay some expenses. A ruble is like a big bill. So in Lubavitch, there was the market. So he went to the market, he had to get change of the ruble. So he went to the market, and he went to a guy, one of the stalls, and he asked him, could you give me change of a ruble? He said, sure, no problem. He takes change of a ruble, and he gives him change of a ruble. The chassid, the melamed is waiting, he wants to give the ruble to the guy, right? That's how you do change, as he gives you the change, and you give him the big bill. The guy starts screaming at him, was stehst du da? Where are you standing? You're in the way, I want my customers to come, and he shoos him away. So the melamed now has the ruble, and he has change of a ruble. So he goes to another guy. He says, could you give me change of a ruble? Second guy gives him a ruble. He gives him the change. He wants to give it. He says, get away from here. You're blocking things. He goes to a third guy. Change, the same thing. He gives him the change and he chases him away. So the melamed now has 3 changes of a ruble, 3 times change of a ruble, and he has the ruble. He's a good. He's doing well. His business is doing good. So he goes to the Tzemach Tzedek and he gives back the ruble. Now he could pay back the loan. It's only one day, but he could pay it up. So the Tzemach Tzedek says, what are you doing here? Was tustuda? What are you doing here? So he said, I came to pay back the ruble. And he tells the Tzemach Tzedek the whole story. Everyone gave me change, so I have money now. I'm paying up the ruble. So the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, Sheite, Sheite, Sheite. That's the end of the story. The Malamed went home and he pulled out his hair from his head. So he realized, I had a ruble that no guy is going to take the ruble from me. They'll only give me the change. So I could have become wealthy for the rest of my life. I went and I gave it back. That's why the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, Sheite, Sheite, Sheite. We have a ruble that's priceless. We have the Matev Chalkei, Ashreinu, Matev Chalkeinu, Umanoim Geiraleinu, Mayafi Yerushaseinu. We have the fortune of being Chassidim and living like Chassidim, which is the fortune, the ability to lebim mit alekos, to go to sleep like a Chassid and wake up like a Chassid, daven like a Chassid, Zakrishma via Chassid, Esri a Chassid. We're living at home. We're not making a show for anyone. We have the ability, Pashat lebim v'chasidim, for ourselves to put into practice in our own Dalet Amnes everything that we were taught and that we were trained and that we were prepared for in all our years in yeshiva and all our years of learning. But you have to keep that ruble. You have to keep that gift. Don't give it back. Give it back and say, oh, I got already what I got from it. I had once a Geschmack of Farbrengen when I was in Mesifta. I had once, I learned a little when I was in Zal. And now I'm already a made man. Here, Rabbi, take back the ruble. Says the Tzemach Tzedek, Sheite, Sheite, Sheite. That's the Ruach Shtus. That tells you, Eidenu b'chasidusei. I'm still a chassid. I don't need the pale mamish on a day-to-day chas v'shalom. We have to get ourselves to know, yes, leb v'ya chassid. And the leb v'ya chassid applies to many, many areas. L'chaim u'berachim. I want to tell you, I want to share with you, I shared with some people already. I don't like to talk about myself. It's not my nature. It's not my but I have been in recent months talking much more about myself. And I have an important thing that I've said, I want to say again. So I'm going to talk again a little bit about myself. This past Thursday, I had my tests, my CAT scans, and the results were very, very good. So I had these results already before I took the tests because I've been feeling very, very good lately. But now my doctor saw it black and white when I've been telling them that I'm doing much better. My CAT scans showed that my disease has been greatly diminished and it disappeared from a lot of places. It's less than half the size. And I want to, before I tell you what the message, some of the messages from this for all of us are, but I want to tell you what this means. When I was diagnosed a little after Hanukkah, so I was diagnosed with stage 4. I also didn't know at that time what any of these words meant, and the doctors were really telling me much. I was hearing of a halufat here and a halufat there, bein ashuris, and then I went and looked it up by myself. Metastasized and stage 4 and carcinoma and all of that. So all that I saw from all of this, that stage 4, that means you're a good guy, because stage 4, that's the biggest stage you could reach, and it's it doesn't, from the doctor's perspective, it wasn't very positive. I knew it from the doctors, from the fact that they all kept telling me that don't worry, it's not hopeless. You should never think that it's hopeless. So I don't need the doctor to tell me that it's not hopeless. I could tell the doctor that, but I understood what the definition of the disease is, and especially the fact that it had spread to my bones, to my spine. That for a while we thought it didn't, and we realized that it did when they took a bone scan. So that it meant it was very, very serious. I mean, the doctor that was being frank with me, he told me, listen, there is a road to recovery for you. It's a very, very narrow road, but if you get the right treatments, then you have a narrow road to recovery. So it was something that was serious. The prospects were not very, very promising, the truth is, at that time. So I had to get treatment. It took me weeks till I got treatment. To help the Eibishter, I didn't get the treatment that I would have wanted. Because the chemo, the best chemo, which is called the cisplatin something, it turned out I wasn't a candidate for it because the disease was in my kidney. And because of that, my kidney function was affected and my creatinine was low or high or whichever it was. I don't even remember anymore. Whichever way, that wasn't good. So I couldn't get the best chemo. So I went to New York for a consultation in Sloan Kettering with a big doctor for a different type of therapy, immunotherapy. I don't know if I ended up writing an email about it, a fascinating thing I was going to write, because it's a meridic lesson of Vedas Hashem. But I wasn't a candidate for that either because of my LDH or LDG or something else based on all the color, all the Rosh Hashanah, but anyways, the generation of Rosh Hashanah. So then there was a third possibility. I'm going to go into a trial and I'll get something that's available in Canada, but I was only eligible for a lesser trial, which was a nectar. And a trial, so they make a geirel, and either they give you the better thing in the trial or the worst thing in the trial. They made the geirel. I got the worst thing in the trial. So I got not the best chemo, not the best immunotherapy, not the second best immunotherapy, the worst chemo, carbon. I understood it was basically, I'm getting like, instead of getting a Rolls Royce, I'm getting like an Oldsmobile. The doctor tried to say, no, this is also good, but I understood like it was a devastating thing. I thought I'm in the trial, but I'm getting something that's the basics that anyone's getting. I'm not getting anything special. And I waited 6 weeks for something I should have gotten. I didn't wait for anything. So first we were thinking that since I'm in the trial, so they could switch me at any point to get the better treatment if it's not working well. And we were asking, my family members were asking, how soon could they switch me? Because everyone understood, like, what am I getting over here? But right away, I thought to myself, what do I need to switch for? Yeah, this is the worst chemo. It's not the good chemo. It doesn't make a difference. It's just a tool. It's a keli. Ein matzah b'ma'at. And the Eibishter, could do it through this through this type of same thing you could do through anything else. What do I need? This is the doctors. It's just b'chol asher tasa. This is as good a b'chol asher tasa as anything.
Yeah.
Mamish, that's exactly what happened. The doctors from Thursday's test, which is after 3 rounds of chemo that I had, it's way beyond their expectations. Again, I'm seeing from the Bebein Ashuris, but they're saying they didn't expect it to go down so fast. From some places disappear, from the bones it's completely gone. For me, I was in a state that I wasn't Purim time, I wasn't functional because of the pains that I was in, and I was taking medications and morphine and everything. Now I'm taking 0 medications. All the things that affected my functionality are gone. The pain is gone. Everything is gone. And Pashat Eibush to turn things over in akatsa lakatsa. First thing I want to say is I want to thank the Eibishter, and I want to thank, I know so many people did so many things that I'm very humbled by, and that's what made the difference. There's no question in my mind, because the medicine wasn't geared to do it. I didn't have the ability to do it, and the doctors don't know whether. So I want to say the first thing is that we have to know, all of us, in every situation, that we're in the Eibishter's hands. We're not in the hands of doctors. We're not in the hands of our business advisors. We're not in the hands of our accountants. And you see it b'muchash. We have to remember that, and we have to see that, and we have to sense that. And the Eibishter is running us. The Eibishter is carrying us and caring for us, and we're in his hands, and we don't have to worry about anything else. The Eibishter wants us to make a b'chol asher tasa. We have to see in the b'chol asher tasa that this is only doing what the Eibishter wants. It's not because the keli in Gashmis is maila or meira. It's leimaila v'leimaila. That's part of the perspective of L'chatchila Riber. Don't give a hisyachsus to begin with the worldly perspective. Says da Eibishter v'seined muvad. That's the first message. The second message is, I think, if there's a teva de kekeli that contributed towards this, I think part of the teva de kekeli is I became very scrupulous in my eating habits, and I started eating all kinds of healthy things, and taking nutritional supplements. Whatever, my kids take care of me, and they give me all kinds of foods and tell me what I am allowed to eat and what I'm not allowed to eat, and what I am allowed to drink and what I'm not allowed to drink. But I've been pretty religious about that.
It's still making
And I learned a very important lesson from that. You know, you see foods that it looks exactly the same, but this one has sugar, this one doesn't have sugar, this one has wheat, this one doesn't have wheat. This has this kind of vegetable is good for you. It doesn't seem like it makes a difference, to the realization that these things make a difference. And it teaches us beruchnis. First of all, basic in halacha. You know, there's certain standards that as Chassidim, traditionally, always Chassidim have higher standards in achila shtia. Chassidim traditionally have higher standards in what we eat. I once said to Miss Nagdish, a relative of mine, I said, you see, the fact is, people go on a plane, people travel, you get offered chassidish shchita. You can have regular or chassidish shchita. I never heard anyone offer litvish shchita. There's no such a concept. There's no such an animal. It's understood, even developed, that a chassidish shchita, that a chassid is someone who holds himself and demands from himself a higher standard in matters of achila shtia. And sometimes you could say, what difference does it make? How much of a difference is it really going to make? This makes a difference. Things that look the same and look similar, they make a very big difference, and they're very different. But this goes more than that. The standard of achila shtia is not just in what you eat on Pesach and what you eat a whole year, of Pashut being upgehit in the way a chassid standards would be. But it's the way we eat. Etzem via chassid, like I told you before. Etzem via chassid is, a chassid has to remember that you mechanish ligin in the etzem. Even if I'm eating something that's 1,000% kosher, keminish essen in a grabe eifem, because that makes me fagreb, just like the physical foods that I eat affect the health and the status of the diseases that are in my body. The spiritual way that I eat affects aviv grabich bin adavi edelich bin. A chassid went to the Rabbi Marash, the Baal Yemeledes one. A chassid, a big chassid, and he complained to the Rabbi Marash. It says who the chassid was, I don't remember. And he complained to the Rabbi Marash, and he said that he doesn't used to daven, he used to have a geschmack in daven, he used to go, and now it's not going so well anymore. And obviously the chassid was honest with himself. He knew himself. He knew that there's no good reason that should explain that, because he didn't do anything bad. He didn't do anything that should kill his enjoyment in davening. So the Rebbe Marash said to him, what do you expect from 40 Iyar from Vetchana? What do you expect from 40 years of eating supper? He said, yeah, you didn't do anything. Rabbi do asked. Best to fagrep, the chassid eats. So everyone, the full shira delay, again, you have to know there's a step. Work, don't give in to every grubit taiva from the nefesh habahamis. That's a bisel edeler. The way you ate affects your spiritual welfare and your spiritual health beyond your imagination. We had in California, there was a chassidish in Geman Shaya Brookwitz. There was a Lebanon of Gesund, I'm an Arichas Yavim B'Shalom Tevis. So he told me once, he said he only ate pizza once in his life. Pizza, yeah, you know what pizza is. There's this Michael in America we have, it's called pizza, it has cheese on it, yeah. But he only ate pizza once in his life. He said he ate the pizza, he took a bite of pizza, and it was so good up, he threw up. It made him sick, he threw up. So since then he could never eat pizza. He was like, stop saying, and he's shy, that's him. So for him, it's real. He couldn't eat it. That's nothing. So he threw it up. By us, I don't know if we're going to throw it up. So we have to take a more active role in certain foods as his grub. So how to from them a bit. I say, yeah, what's the difference? It matters. You can't say, Denu say that's the Ruach Shtus. That's the second message I think that I learned from this. And the third message is that we're all sick. We all have a disease. The disease is that we're living in a Helen Vehester of Galus. In the Maimer Vata Tetzava, the Rebbe brings that Chayla Begematria Memtes, that even someone was davened, someone who is living a little bit like a chassid. But if you don't have the Shara Nun, if you don't have Gili Ha'atzmos, if we don't have ultimate Gili Alikus, Lichtman and Blotter, then we're missing, then we're chayla, then we're ill, then we're diseased. It's something that we can't tolerate. We can't manage such a thing. We all have a disease. And with our disease, this disease of Golus, this illness of being held back from Gili Alikus, is a disease that also has a very serious prognosis. The doctors of the world will tell us, don't feel hopeless, but saying don't feel hopeless is their code words, just like I saw by me, is their code words to tell me that it's really hopeless. That's how they say it. They don't feel hopeless. I never felt hopeless. I didn't, but not because of my doctors. Despite my doctors, I didn't feel hopeless. They would give me, every once in a while, I had to fill out a questionnaire because of the trial that I was in. I was in a clinical trial. I'm still in the clinical trial. They still have to do their trial. I'm not finished yet. But in the trial, it has a questionnaire. The questionnaire asks you about your pain level and your functionality, and if you could get dressed by. And my difficult times, my pain level was bad. My nausea was bad. I couldn't get dressed by myself. I mean, I did. I was able to. It was very great difficulty to put on my pants, to put on my socks. Everything was a whole aveda. But the questions, are you depressed? Are you feeling anxiety? Are you feeling worried? All those questions, from the beginning, was always 0. You had to answer on a scale of 1 to 5 or sometimes 1 to 10. The answer was always 0. I'm not feeling anxiety. I'm not feeling depressed. And I'm not feeling worried. I forget all the shameless shekarli chachamenus al be'emes. But the doctors could be hopeless. With our disease of galus, the doctors, the seichel, the hanachas ha'elam could see it as being a very serious situation. Was wird sein? We have to know that the Eibishter is carrying us. We have to be meisif and teva kedusha, because that's what makes the difference. A capital tilla makes the difference. A davening makes the difference. Every one of us going out of our golus pnimi and inyanim of Avedas Hashem pulls the world more out of the golus. But we're out of it. It's within reach. If we pull us out of our golus, then we'll take our next test, and the doctors will say it's gone. The world will say it's gone. The test will show we have to look that way. We have to see that way. We're now in the time of the year. We're in the time of the year when the Rebbe spoke in Tafshinun Aleph about Mashiach and gave us our directive and our direction to Kochzech in Mashiach, to learn Torah about Mashiach, that's the Derech Yishara, that's the path to our redemption and the redemption of the world. It means us. We have to know that if we do this, if we saw that there's a cure to this disease of God, we would do it no matter what the price is, no matter what the effort it costs. This is our cure. This is our medicine. We have to take it seriously. We can't allow our ruach shtus to let us cut corners. Anyways, I'm speaking long. Let's sing a niggin. So take yourself off mute, and we'll sing together a niggin. We'll say l'chaim. I hope you sing l'chaim. Anyways, in the meantime, you don't wait for me to tell you to say l'chaim. We'll say l'chaim. We'll sing a niggin. We'll inspire ourselves and try to get a little bit higher. Shteina b'sel hecher, beina b'sel chatchila ribbi. L'chaim l'bracha.
Chaim.
You have to take yourself off mute. It's a very uncomfortable thing, right? Because everyone is you're sitting in your house alone. Everyone looks at you funny. You're sitting alone in your house and you start singing. So if you feel funny, you shouldn't feel funny. Because people walk in the street and they talk to themselves. These days, everyone talks to themselves, and you look a little closer.
It's funny, everyone's videos.
Something in his ear. He doesn't feel embarrassed. You look at him funny, but he doesn't feel embarrassed. You have to know. The Gemara says, Shaita, Rabbi Yechon had a debate about Sfiras Eimer with the Tzdukim. And they didn't like Rabbi Yechon's argument. He said, Shaita, Loite, Teira, Shalema, Shalonu, Tisicha, Betela, Shalacham. So just like in Inyana Yahelam, a guy could walk in the street and talk to himself. Hashem Sich Nish von Keiner, you could sit in your house, you could unmute yourself and sing a niggin. And you're doing a chassid, and doing your neshama, and you don't have to worry if it looks funny and without such neshama. I just want to tell you one more thing. And this is the essence of our problem. You know, now, in this quarantine situation, in this coronavirus era, so busy learning about muting and unmuting and muting. So especially like in schools. So I give a cheer, then I hear some background noise, and the Bachman tell me, no, you have to go to this name, that name, and mute him, because he doesn't realize he's talking to someone, he's making noise, and everyone's hearing his background noise and it's disturbing. So but then you have to ask a question, you have to unmute. So we have this problem in general, because we have two refreshes, and they're giving us different messages. Yeah. And we're the host. And we're supposed to be muting the Nefesh HaBahamis and unmuting the Nefesh Elikis. And if we do it like that, then we get a clear message, then we get a clear niggin, then we get the right direction. But sometimes we distort things. And Chas v'Shalom, we mute the Nefesh Elikis.
They're going to sing a niggin.
Where's
the last bottle?
And the unmute
The worst I've ever heard in my life. Everyone's singing it.
Excuse me? What is that fear?
So first and foremost, it's Beis Iyar has to be bayas lechatchila riber. Everyone has to translate what does it mean in my life. Am I getting up in the morning? Am I going to sleep? Am I davening? Am I learning? Am I avas Yisrael? Am I afatzas amayanis chutza? How do I pull them all out of their imprisonment in anachas ha'elam and make them in a way of lechatchila riber? The world is now in a state that it's imprisoned. It's imprisoned in a virus. It's imprisoned in a magefa and a pegara. The Rahman al-Islam brought karbonis and brought saris and brought tsar and agmas nefesh. Aber mit darf's aufheben hecher von them. We have to understand the nekuda of a chassid is that we have a different perspective. L'chatchila riber is that I see everything elikus. It's not chas v'shalom because there was a virus somewhere in China and it spread and the Eibishter is doing something in the world that right now is coming down in levushim, the hamalimim, in levushim that are negative, but it's part of the Eibishter's plan and we have to lift ourselves higher and lift the world higher. It should be nizgala the taiv shabbat. There was a big goyin. His name was Rabbi Ber Weissmandel. And I said this recently. Rabbi Ber Weissmandel was the Rosh Hashiva in Nitra before the war. He was famous because during the war, he was with his whole family on the train to Auschwitz. And he escaped from the train. And he worked to try to save his family. His family remained on the train. They were going, and he knew they're going to be killed. He tried very hard to save his family. He went to the bishop and he went to Beis, and it was the But then he tried to save Yidden. He saw what's going on, and he was a brilliant man. And I want to just to illustrate to you his brilliance, because when I was a bacher, I once saw somewhere a sefer that he wrote. His sefer, I haven't seen it. I don't know if it was ever reprinted. But he wrote a sefer al Torah Drushim. Everyone writes a sefer. So I was a book. I saw the sefer. I was looking through the sefer. I had heard of the person. In his sefer, one of the types of Chidush Torah is this Drushim that he says is where he explains, finds a remuzim in the Torah based on the number of letters, like every 50 letters spells a word, spells a phrase, and he finds things. So it's what we know today as the Bible codes. But the Bible codes are remuzim, signs that are found by computer, that counts letters and finds patterns of letters. And this person found it with his brilliance, and he wasn't sitting and counting letters with a calculator. He saw the pasuk, he saw the parsha at the gleiche end. This is this amount of letters, it spells the word, and he has divrei Torah based on that. This is pashat, the brilliance, pashat in seichel. So he saw what was going on, and he had a plan to save Yidden. He smuggled out telegrams to the State Department in Washington that they should bomb the train tracks to Auschwitz, and they'd be able to save hundreds of thousands of Yidden. And he sent, and nobody did anything. So he saw how there were his family first, and then hundreds of thousands of other Yidden that were able to be saved, and they weren't saved because everyone turned a blind eye. So he wrote his memoirs of all these experiences after the wars. He wrote a sefer Min HaMeitzar, in which he recounts all his efforts and how the world turned a blind eye and things that they could have done and lives that they could have saved, and no one cared enough. But for him personally, this made him, he became very, very broken, very tzibrochen. He saw this, he lived through this, and he was shattered. After the war, he was a shattered man because of losing his family, but also because of seeing that there was something that could have been done about it, and nobody could be bothered enough to do it. After the war, he was in Yechidus by the Frierdiker Rebbe. And he went into Yechidus and he started telling his story. And in the middle of telling his story, he started crying. And the Frierdiker Rebbe started to cry together with him. And that went by a few moments, the Rebbe and this Rosh Hashiva crying together. And after a few moments of crying, the Frierdiker Rebbe got up and he went over to him. And he gave him, I think it was a clap of the pleitza. And he said, Veritas Kitan, das is for the Eibishter. He said, it's terrible things that he lived through. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, but Veritas Kitan, who did it? It's the Eibishter who did it. And his Talmidim said that this Yechidus gave him a new lease on life. These words of the Frierdiker Rebbe gave him a new strength, that he went to Mount Kisco and he eventually started the Naitra Yeshiva there, and he ran his yeshiva until he passed away. Frierdiker Rebbe told him, Veritas getan, das is for the Eibishter. There's no such thing as some worldly problem that something went wrong, and because of that we're in a dilemma, we're in a bad situation. The Eibishter has his plans. We don't have to like them. We daven and we demand and we scream and we cry to the Eibishter to stop all these negative things. But it's the Eibishter. And the way to deal with it is by dealing with the Eibishter, by connecting with the Eibishter. Just a sequel to the story that I said, that always goes together with it. That Shalom Mordechai said that his son was the Mashkiach in Postville, the son of this Rabbi Weissmandel. And he said that once this Rabbi Weissmandel heard that there were some people that were raitzing on the Satmar Rav, trying to raitz him on against the Frierdiker Rebbe. Based off, there's people who always look for ways to stir the pot and create machlekes and to provoke. The Rechagav in, I think it was Tafshinun or Tafshinun Aleph, maybe it was Memches, in the later years. So Rabbi Yalis, there was Rabbi Yalis, was the Rav of Philadelphia, and he used to come to the Rebbe every Chol HaMoed. He had a Meiridik connection to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe was Meiridik Makarev him lot of letters and igros to him from the early years. He's a very special person. And he came to the Rebbe Chalamoid of one of the later years, and he came with his Einikol. And his Einikol wrote a sefer. So when he came to the Rebbe with his Einikol showed the Rebbe the sefer that he put out. And when he showed the Rebbe the sefer, he showed the Rebbe the Haskamas, the sefer had Haskamas. And one of the Haskamas was from the Satmar Rav. Showed the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said to him, Ich hab gesehen, that I saw when you showed me the Haskama of the Satmar Rav, that you were uncomfortable. That's what the Rebbe said. I saw you were uncomfortable. Because he raised the Satmar, Lubavitch, Satmar. I showed the Lubavitch, the Rebbe, the Satmar Rav. And he felt funny. The Rebbe said, you should know, as ich bin gewähnt bei Yedidus mit him. And the Rebbe said, I went to be Menachem Avol by him, and he came to be Menachem Avol by me. And the Rebbe said, being Menachem Avol, there's two ways you could do it. You could do it after Yetzezayin, and you could do it with an emes. He said, by both of us, it was done with mitanemes. And the machlekes was made by Anashim b'nei B'liyal, I think was the Rebbe's lashon, something like that. So there was always the b'nei B'liyal and the zucht anreitzen and machlekes. So in the times of the Frierdiker Rebbe, they went to Reitzman against the Frierdiker Rebbe. So this Rabbi Weissmandel heard about it. He put on his big day yontif and he traveled to the Satmar Rav, to wherever he was in Williamsburg, and he went and he spoke on behalf of the Frierdiker Rebbe. All behemshich to that experience that he had in that Yechidus. But the Frierdiker Rebbe told him, Veritas getan, das is for the Eibishter. The lechatchila riber dike look is we have to know, says the Eibishter. Says Akel mistater. Aber it says Achin atakel mistater. This hiddenness, this concealment, this kel mistater is ata, it's you, it's the etzem of the Eibishter. And therefore the way to deal with it is not to look at worldly tools to deal with it. It's to strengthen our connection with the Eibishter as Omegala Zayin the type, strengthen our bitachon in the Eibishter, strengthen our amun in the Eibishter, and strengthen our connection with the Eibishter. To lift ourselves up higher from our own hell and vehester, to connect ourselves with the Eibishter. How does a chassid connect himself with the Eibishter? Comes back to the same thing. Our tools, we were given our tools, we were given our medicine, we were given our ways, our means of dealing with every situation, with chassidus, with limud chassidus and darkei chassidus. That's our lifeline. And every shortcut that we try to take, every cut in corners, we're losing out. That's our legacy, our heritage, our chelkeinu, Yerushaseinu, Geraleinu, that's what we have. There's a difficult situation that we verstärken, be better chassidus. Learn more chassidus, live more with Avart chassidus by imbuing it into your davening. Say at least one page of davening mit Avart chassidus. The whole davening, but say one page. Say one word, one line. Say a bracha the way a chassid says a bracha. Connect with the Eibishter. Lega rein the Eiris to tell you and Caleb the Tikkun. Everyone has his step. Every one of us has what we know we're supposed to become better in. There was a chassid, a Peretz Mochkin. A Peretz Mochkin said that there's no difficulty in the world, was bekannt von dem nicht pater werden durch steiner tefach. There's no difficulty that a person can't extricate himself from it through being higher. Steiner tefach. We have that ability. Lift yourself up higher from the Elam, Nasam, Belibe Shalad, from our own Helen Behester. Be a chassid, be more of a chassid, be a real chassid. Be a pnimistic chassid. Leb mit der Vart chassidus. Learn in Yanegula Mashiach with the pnimius that this is our life. This is where we're headed. There's behind the coronavirus is not going back to the world that we left behind. It doesn't make sense. The Eibishter didn't shake up the world with this to go and to come back. Turn, look ahead. Focus ahead with these glasses, with these spectacles of the Inyan Igula Mashiach, the way it is in Torah, Malchus Shebetifereth, Tifereth Shebetifereth. To learn about Mashiach, to live with Mashiach in a way that it comes into something that we're doing, it comes into our day-to-day life. This is us, we have the ability, we're given, all our training is for this. Now is the time to implement it. Now is the time to figure out how we could make it more a part of our lives in a Krishma Shalamita, in a Krishma, in a Avos Yisrael. There was a Farbrengen today. I told you before, I mentioned it before, there was a big Farbrengen, thousands, tens of thousands of Chassidim joined in online. And the Farbrengen was focused on Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael. A lot of speakers spoke about Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael, which by us, by Chassidim, that's supposed to be our strong point, right? We're Chassidim, we're the ones. But it's something that we need often strengthening in. So that was spoken about a lot today by Riches. I just want to say a story about that before I say the point that I wanted to come to. Two stories, actually. So one story is there was a shliach that had a daughter, 4 or 5 year old daughter. She was in kindergarten. And he's in a city based on there's no Lubavitch school. They're together. Her friends are the children of the other people, the Elam Mishan, the Misnagdim in the city. So one day there's this Misnagdi Sherav in the city who's a big Misnagid, an outspoken Misnagid against the Chassidus, against the Rebbe. And one day this Misnagid calls up the Shliach and he says, I want you to learn with me Chassidus. Like Chassidus, fine, of course. He sits down, they learn Chassidus and they make a kfiyas, but afterwards he says, what happened? You were never into this stuff before. What suddenly you became interested in learning Chassidus? So he said, our daughters are classmates. They're together, they're friends, they're classmates, they're together in school. And they talk. The little children, the little girls don't know about the groups and about the things. They're friends. They're not so sophisticated as to have all the machlekes that we, the adults, are better at. So anyway, so they're talking one day. He says, and my daughter says to your daughter in the course of the conversation, because what does a child say? What she hears at home. What does she know? What she hears at home. He says, so my daughter says to your daughter, picked up at her dinner table. That's what she learned. Like the Gemara says, she said, the nuka bishuka ida avu ida ima. What does a child know to say? What she hears from her parent. So in the course of the conversation, what did she learn? This was, I guess, her new chiddush that she learned from listening into the conversations of her president. My father hates your Rebbe. So Teich Diba right away, the daughter of the shliach says back, yeah, but my Rebbe, she says, but my Rebbe loves your father. She wasn't coached what to say. How did she said that Messiah Lefituma. She said that so automatically, only says, when I heard that, I said, if that's the case, I have to. I started learning Chassidus. That's one story. The other story is, there's a lot of stories, but these are two stories. The other story is that I want to say today is there was once a group of Bachrim that used to go Mitzrayim, Zman or every week. So to go Mitzrayim, you have to have a driver. Maybe they were younger Bachrim, they didn't drive, or they didn't have a vehicle. There was an old guy learning yeshiva, and he went off a little bit, so he wasn't so religious anymore. But at the Lubavitch yeshiva, so he liked to help out the Bachrim, so he would drive them to the Mitzrayim. But that was it. He didn't get actively involved in the Mitzrayim and the Chalena. He just drove them there and he watched them, and he was yetzer with that, which is also a big thing. And he gets a lot of credit for that, but that's besides it. So one day he drives them there to a base where there's a lot of soldiers, and they're putting tefillin on the soldiers. So there was a captain there, and the captain b'shumei didn't want to put on tefillin. So the Bachrim were fine. They'll put on with everyone else. All the rest of the soldiers were happy at putting on tefillin. But the other soldiers, they were trying to convince the captain to put on tefillin. The Bachrim are putting it. They have enough people to put on. Many people were interested, but the other soldiers were nudging their captain. Why don't you want to put on tefillin? Put on tefillin. We're putting on. You put on. So finally, he says, "You should know that I'll tell you the truth." He says, "I'm not religious. You know me. I'm not religious. But when I was younger, I learned in yeshiva, and I left yeshiva. I left Yiddishkeit completely. I didn't keep anything. But there's one thing that stayed in my mind from my days that I learned in yeshiva. I learned in yeshiva to hate Lubavitch. So that I kept. I didn't remain with anything else except for that." So the driver, he hears this. He never got involved, but here at the Shenishka Einhalten, and he jumps in. He says, "I also learned in yeshiva, and I also left yeshiva. I didn't keep in. So the only thing that stayed with me is to love every Jew." He said, "I learned in a Lubavitch yeshiva. I also dropped everything. The only thing that stayed is to love every Jew." So Avada, we have to strengthen ourselves in Avas Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael, because that's the cornerstone of a chassid. That's the life of a chassid. But there's something more than that. What's really the challenge? Do we have a difficulty loving another chassid? We could look at a chassid and see the milas of a chassid. There's a word from the Rebbe Marash also, from the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash said, it's a sikh of the Friedrich Rebbe, I forget which year, from Rosh Hashanah. Says that the Rebbe Marash said, if you would know, I forget the beginning of the word. At the end of the word, he said, Eina Kadosh Baruch Hu mis'ava l'tfilasan shel Yisrael elo l'shvachan shel Yisrael. Rosh Hashanah, we daven hours and hours. He said the Eibishter is not looking as much for your davening. He'd rather hear you say Ashvach, Zagin a gute Wort auf Nachayid, which is a medical word. Before Rosh Hashanah, Elul, there's campaigns, Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara. Don't speak Lashon Hara, Machsim, Lapi, pictures of people with zippers on their mouths. Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara. Yeah. Here's one line in a sikha that went 1,000,000 miles beyond all the Lashon Hara campaigns. Lashon Hara is don't say it. You know what Lashon Hara means? Lashon Hara means the guy is a shin vav, and therefore I can't say it. I can't speak about him. It's going to be Lashon Hara, right? The Rebbe Marash said, "Hey, b'shtes mis'ava l'shvachan shel Yisrael. Zog auf him a good word. Look at him chiyuvdik. Look at his tremendous milas." That's a whole new dimension, and it's something that we could do. Everyone could look at another Jew and see that he's the most precious thing in the world. I heard someone was in Yechidus once by the Rebbe, and either they were talking about it or the Rebbe. Somehow Freud came into the conversation, and Freud was the big psychologist who's mentioned in the Rishimus HaYiman, whose big psychology, his big chachma was based behind a person's behavior, and deep down is really an animal. That's the big brilliance of Freud. That's why his Talmud, Viktor Frankl, was rejected because he said the opposite, and the Rebbe saved the whole story. Kapanim, this was Freud. And there must have been some seichel in that every person is deep down an animal. But Freud, first of all, the Rebbe Rashab went to him. If he was just a lunatic, the Rebbe Rashab wouldn't have gone to him. And you see that his teachings still persevere till today. So Viktor Frankl quite a different approach. That's more techedik, but epis doing that. So the Rebbe said by a yechidus to someone, he said, Freud had gegraben. he dug deep down into a person's personality, right? He deep down into a person's self, and he was megala the shmutz, is megala the dirt that lies beneath the surface. Yeah, because he showed a person could be doing good things, but behind that is his animalistic instincts. He really made a person look bad. The Rebbe said Freud dug and at megala given the shmutz. He said, aber der Baal Shem Tov hat gegraben noch tiefer und megala given the eitzres. That Freud wasn't wrong, but he didn't dig deep enough. The Baal Shem Tov dug deeper at the megala given the eitzres. So there's a story, by the way, before I come to this point. There's a story about a chassid who was very poor, which isn't fair. Why are the chassidim always very poor till today? But some are not. The Rebbe in our generation wants us to all be rich. The Rebbe tells us, Truma and Beis, we got to be rich. So everyone should be healthy and rich and wealthy, and we should have teva nira v'nigla l'mata me'asara tfachim b'pashtus. But Akopanim, so this chassid was very poor, and he had a relative who was wealthier, and the relative would send him every month some money. That's how he lived. One day the relative says to this chassid, first of all, it's a pain in the neck for me. Every month I have to send you money. And it's humiliating for you. Every month you have to come on to me and get money. It's not good for both of us. He said, I have an idea. I'll give you a sum of money, and you'll open a store, and you'll make a big business by yourself. So it'll be better for you and better for me. I won't have to much, you won't have to much. It's great. Makes a lot of sense, but a chassid doesn't do things without asking. A chassid, yeah, that's the definition of a chassid. So he said he has to ask. So he asked the Tzemach Tzedek, and the Tzemach Tzedek said, not a good idea. The Tzemach Tzedek says it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea, but it is very uncomfortable to have to go begging every month. And it is uncomfortable. His relative himself doesn't want it, so it makes it even more uncomfortable because here this guy is helping me. Wants to do. So the Weiler there was a Rebbe, then the Veledniker, who was a big Baal Meifes and a big Baal Ruach HaKodesh. He was known, and there's a famous Meifes from him with the Ve'ilei Milaya Yahain L'Irkiyaya. Yeah, you know the story. Someone came to the Veledniker. He wants a bracha for children. So the Veledniker said to him he should spread out linens in his house. He said, Ve'ilei Milaya, the linens, the sheets, Yahain L'Irkiyaya will be spread out on the ground. Ve'samon Manshaya, Over Vedart in ruin, who's going to rest there? What's going to come there? Ha'Allah Hu Shimsha, Dizin. You'll have a son. He said, if you do that, you'll have a son. It says, Befedish Zmiris V'ilin Milaya, Yahain L'Irkiyaya, Ve'samon Manshaya, Ha'Allah Hu Shimsha. Chamaisim Medivilednik, yeah. So the Rabbi said this story by a Farbrengen once. And you could understand that every chassid who was by the Farbrengen, who was tzarich la'isei davar, who needed that bracha, ran home and put out sheets in his house. Kilo, the Rebbe said the story, Kilo derech hagav, alom verstanden, and they put out sheets, and asach zene geholfen geworden. There was one person who was sitting by the Farbrengen, and it was a Vatitzchak Sara Bekir Valemer, and he was like laughing. He says, Hallahu Shimsha. Shimsha means the sun, yeah, the sun that's in the sky. The zin meaning a son, a child. It's like Kama Purim Teda. Like what kind of a Teda he was thinking? What's the Rebbe saying? Like such Tedas that are nothing. So that's what he was thinking to himself, laughing to himself. Only the Rebbe turned to him, to this person, Was lacht der? Ich hab ich gemeint. What are you laughing? I said the story for you. Nebuch, this person never had any children. Instead of believing and accepting and jumping on it with the Emunah Pshuta and the Tmimus, the Yetamim of a Chassid had to gelacht, and he lost out. Al Kopanim. So this was the Veledniker bat. So the Veledniker came to the city of that chassid who his relative wanted him to open a store. And the chassid decided, let me ask the Veledniker. So he asked the Veledniker. So he said, it's a good idea. So he opened the store. He couldn't give in to the pressure, couldn't withstand the pressure anymore. So he opened the store. So what do you think happened? He did very well. It's very successful. A lot of people came to buy, and he made money, and he was comfortable, and he was having menucha. He wasn't totally in his relative. He was made. One day, a guy came into his store, a bandit, a robber came into the store, and the robber made a holdup, and the robber shot him, and he killed him. That was the end. Yeah, that's the end of the story. The story is supposed to end. He lived happily ever after, but he didn't. So Chassidim said, the Veledniker had eich gesehen. Said it wasn't the pshat. The Veledniker was a known about Ruach HaKodesh. He was a known. Yeah, he had other stories. He was a known Balmefes. He said it wasn't the pshat. The Veledniker gave an answer al pisvara, al pisechel, anushi, which was wrong. He said had eich gesehen. Ner had nicht gesehen business saw. He saw correctly. He saw beruach HaKodesh that a story would be good for this person. But he didn't see till the end of the story that it won't be good in the long, long term. Tzemach Tzedek had gesehen business of. Freud had gesehen, lahavdil, not lahavdil, even, but it's a different type of zen. But he saw it was seichel. He was megala shmutz, that was a real shmutz, when he uncovered and identified animalistic instincts that are governing so much of a person's behavior. It was correct. But the Baal Shem Tov said, no, you're not seeing business self. Behind that, beneath that, beyond that is the Eitzres. We're able to see those Eitzres. Befrat as Melant Avart Chassidus, we could see those Eitzres, we could sense those Eitzres. We could easily see the beauty and the quality and the virtue from the other Yid. What's our challenge? Our challenge is our Metzias. Our Metzias gets in the way. That my Metzias, that doesn't let me give a place for someone else, because her threat of mir, like the story with the Tzemach Tzedek, that someone complained to the Tzemach Tzedek as mitret of him. The Rebbe said the story in a Maimer and gave a whole beer. It was in Yechidas. He complained that people are stepping on me in shul. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, because your mispashet, your Metzias is spreading out throughout the whole Beis Medrash, as vu yener tret is das avdir. Our Metzias gets too big. It gets too much increased. And therefore, yener, I could see his milas, except till the point where it's shtert my Metzias, for a lot of different reasons that someone else bothers my Metzias. For a lot of different reasons that someone else, that my swelled Metzias, that my overgrown Metzias becomes bothered by someone else. But whatever the reason, that stands in the way that no matter how many milas I see in someone else, but my big Metzias says no, he's a lowlife. So what's the solution? The same solution. Chassidus gives us the antidote to having a swelling Metzias. Chassidus gives us the antidote to having an exploded Metzias. That learning and thinking and davening and saying a Krishma, focusing on the Havaya Echa, on the Einei Movade, and that we're not really here. That's the cure for that. Don't care so much about your Metzias. I care about it. You're right. It takes a hard work, but learn it, adaita denafshe. Slowly it starts taking effect, just like every medicine. It doesn't work in 1 second, but slowly, and it doesn't have to be so slowly. You see the medicine making a difference, and the swelling that comes from a Metzias that's being where it doesn't belong. Chassidus, Chatchila Riber is Altzes Alikos. Mitzias ha'ela, mitzias of me, the ela mashenasam belibi shel ha'adam, darf nicht vernehmen azar. It doesn't have to play such an important place. But it has to be with great effort, with taking the Chassidus seriously. This is the inyan of the Rebbe Marash. This is the inyan of L'chatchila Riber. The only truth in our life is Einid Muvadi is Alakus. And that's why the inyan of the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe says in Hayim Yom that the Rabbeim would have Mamorim, that they would say Mizman, Lizman, L'tara Sa'avir. They would say Mizman, Lizman, Mamorim to purify the air. They said over the same Maimer. Which, by the way, that's Kaminecha Malton. I don't know if our learning Mamorim is going to purify the air in the world, but it's going to purify our own Avya. You look for what to learn. Learn a Maimer again and again and again. It's not Bashamayim, and I hear from so many guys who did it, and they say, oh, I'm starting to understand the Maimer. I'm starting to appreciate the Maimer. It doesn't have to be forcing yourself. Learn it. Start appreciating. Start enjoying. Start getting in tune with this Ashreinu Matev Chalkeinu. Learn it over and over and purify your own atmosphere that's in your Olam Katan, so that you're able to free yourself of some of this negativity. Kapanim, so in Hayim Yom it says the Rebbe Rashab said, the Maimer Micha Mecha. That was the Maimer the Rebbe Rashab said. Each of the Rabbeim had Mamorim that they would repeat the same Maimer exactly the same way, Mizman, Lizman, L'tara Sa'afim. So what is one of the things that's discussed in that Maimer? That the Rebbe Marash asks, how could we say Einid Muvade, L'cheira there's a world? How could we say that there's no world that alters the Kuth if we see that there's a world? That's one of the basic questions that Chassidus comes to help us out with this, to illuminate for us. So in the Maimer, the Rebbe Marash says maybe the answer is that the world is an Achiza Seinayim. Maybe the world is not really there. It's a figment of our imagination, and it's an hallucination, and it's nothing. But the Rebbe Marash, no, that's Kaddish Zayin. First, two reasons. First of all, because the pasuk says, "Bereishis bara lekim es hashamayim v'saaretz." So there's obviously a world. And second of all, because of schar v'einish. If someone's mechalel Shabbos, he gets a punishment. But if the world wasn't real, hat nish mechalel Shabbos given. So Torah shows there's a world. When the existence of the world is because Torah said there's a world, so then it's not a world that's Mailim Umaster and Alakus. Its whole existence is only Vifo Bereishis Bar Alikim Zach the Welt. This is with the world. Yeah, that brings to the approach of L'chatchila Riber, Val the Welt is Nish Kenemis and Metzias. The same exact thing is with our world, with the Elam Katan Zeha Adam. If my existence is only a Vifal Alakus Machmir for a Metzias, so then it's not a Metzias that stands in the way of someone else. It's not a Metzias was wird gestört von jenes Metzias. Because both of us are the same thing. We're Chelik Alikami Mal Mamish. And this is connected with another story with the Rebbe Marash. That the Rebbe Marash, after the stalkers of the Tzemach Tzedek, so then the Rebbe Marash was Eila over all the other brothers, even though he was the youngest brother. And until then, the other brothers were already Chazrin Chassidus, and they were having Arabistava to a certain extent. And the Rebbe Marash then was completely behest, he was completely hidden. As Mamish Matem Nishki Kent, he would act with Keilu, with Wilde Zachen, Shevivus, it says even in Rishimis. There's the famous story that one of a chassid went to an elder chassid, Baruch Mordechai, and he asked him after the stalkers of the Tzemach Tzedek. He said this Tzemach Tzedek had 6 sons, all of them tzaddikim. Which one should he accept upon himself as a rebbe? A number of them took on a rebbistva. So this chassid says to the younger chassid, he says, who are we to choose between the Rebbe's sons, the Tzemach Tzedek's sons? He says, all I could tell you is which one I'm going to take on myself for a Rebbe and why. He said, I was once by the Tzemach Tzedek said a Maimer. And I had a question on the Maimer from a Eitz Chaim. So I went to each of the sons of the Tzemach Tzedek with the question. And each of them answered the question, but I didn't like any of the answers. And then it was already almost morning, and the Rebbe Marash I wasn't even planning on going to because he wasn't known as like. But I passed by his house. I saw there's a light on in his house. I said, let me check what he's doing. I peeked in through the window, through the keyhole, through the window, whatever, and I saw the Eitz Chaim was open in the table to this page where my question was from. Oh, Ebazeh, I said, assuming that there's what to ask him also, yeah. So I knocked on the door. The Rebbe Marash said, hold on a minute. Who's there? I said, who's there? He said, hold on a minute. And he opened the door for me. I come into the house. There's no Eitz Chaim. There's no Maimer. The table is full of newspapers. I said, and the Rebbe Marash says to me, what are you here for? What do you need? Like, what do you want? He says, I came to ask you a question in the Maimer from Eitz Chaim. He says, me, you're asking a question. The Rebbe Marash, me, you're asking a question. I thought you're smarter than that. What are you? He's looking at the table. He sees there's newspapers on the table. He says to the Rebbe Marash, if you don't answer me the question, I saw from the window what was going on a minute ago. There was no newspapers. There was a Eitz Chaim. If you don't answer me, I'm going to go. The whole Lubavitch is going to know what I saw here 5 minutes ago. So the Rebbe Marash smiled and he answered him the question. The Chassid says, "Gevarim lichtig in shtul." He spoke and alles is gevarim klar. Said, for me, I'm going to the Rebbe Marash to be my Rebbe. So Al Kapanim, the Rebbe Marash was completely hidden. And then after the stalkers of the Tzemach Tzedek, he was Eila. So he once said, so it was known, he used to say a lot of times, as there's Elter mit the Tatas Yar. And the Rebbe said that over. But there's also another story that he once said, I have a maila over my brothers that I heard, I think he said 1,000 mamarim or 600 mamarim that I heard from my father, from the Tzemach Tzedek, that my brothers didn't hear. And he said the story. What was those mamarim? He said, when I was younger, I was sick. And my father came every day to visit me. And when he would visit me, he would say mamarim. Those are mamarim that I heard that my brothers didn't hear, and that gives me a mile over them. It says, by Chassidim, it says, I don't know what the makar is. What was the sickness of the Rebbe Marash? He was sick, that he had to be visited by the Tzemach Tzedek. I mean, we know that Begashmis, the Rebbe Marash always suffered certain sicknesses and certain health problems. So it's not really a question. But here it says, no, that wasn't this sickness. His sickness was that he wasn't able to see Elam Haza. Yeah. Imagine you wake up in the morning and you only see Elikus. You don't see Elam Haza. That's the illness that the Rebbe Marash had in the Bechayim of the Tzemach Tzedek. So when the Tzemach Tzedek would visit him, he would say Mamarim. So he would say Mamarim an Yehuda Tata to help him be able to see the world. And while the Tzemach Tzedek was there, Hitaka was cured. He was able to see the world. But after the Tzemach Tzedek left, he didn't see it anymore until the Tzemach Tzedek left him with his stick, and then he was able to see the world after the Tzemach Tzedek left. He got the ganze Metzies vom Welt was, weil the Maimer hat gemacht, as mir soll sein a Welt. And that's what the Rebbe Marash later in his Maimer in Kamecha said, the Metzies vom Welt is from the Bereishis Bara Lekimes HaShamayim V'Saaretz. So then is a different world, then automatically your approach to the world is L'chatchila Rebbe. This is what the Rebbe expects from us. The Rebbe turned this into our sisma, our slogan, our motto, our this is our center, our theme, our marching orders on L'chatchila Rebbe. So the Rebbe is giving us the keches of that. It's not an old-fashioned idea. It means every one of us wake up in the morning, learn a little more chassidus, and learn it a little better, a little more properly, a little more pneumistic, so that by dear Zalvich Anher in Lechatchila Riber, we should weaken our way of looking at the world. We should weaken the tfisas makim that the mitzias of the world and that the mitzias of my yeshus or my nefesh abahamis has been. That it shouldn't be with such a takef. The way that weakens it is that their heron is the understanding. Each of us adaita the nafshe as the emes is alikus, as the emes is the ebishter. And when we understand that, so slowly it affects the way we look at the outside world, the way we look at the inside world, the way we look at our friends, the way we look at someone, was stört my mitzias, well, my mitzias is nicht as a grace mitzias. But we have to take that first step. Just like every illness, you have to start the treatment process. Every illness, you have to start the treatment procedure. This is our treatment. Mit lernen ab Chassidus und leben wie Chassidim. We have to mishuga, b'seichel darf man haben. We have to get rid of the ruach shtus, not convince ourselves as meken yetzes ein them. We can't convince ourselves that we're fine without that, because we're not fine. It has to be by us real. We have to be real, genuine, pure, tmimustik chassidim. Whatever was demanded, whatever was expected. There was once someone in Yechidus by the Rebbe arguing with the Rebbe. A lot of people argued with the Rebbe. We also argue with the Rebbe, but we argue. There's when we first say a different story. L'chaim l'bracha. Someone was by the Rebbe Marash once, and he was a person. There's two opposite nuschais in the story. I don't know which is correct, but it doesn't really make a difference in the main point. This was a person that the first way I saw it, he was supposed to give his wife a get. So all there, they're abundant, someone's supposed to give a get, everyone tries to get him to give a get, but he didn't want to give a get. So they arranged that they got him to come to the Rebbe Marash, and he was a chassid kinir of the Rebbe Marash. So the Rebbe Marash said, you have to give a get. Pitera, in his situation, he had to give a get. So he said to the Rebbe Marash, Rebbe, als was ihr wird mir heißen, bin ich bereit zu tun, aber das kann ich nicht tun. Whatever you tell me, I'm listening to you. I'll do nasa v'nishma, except for this. So the Rebbe Marash said to him, Ei bazei is a siman as felt in the Indian for me, sheyesh bei Iyar Hashemayim dvarav nishmayim. That you're not listening to me, it's a sign that I'm missing in this Indian. So yesh bei Iyar Hashemayim dvarav nishmayim. And the Rebbe Marash put his head down on his arms. And when he picked up his head face was mu'uyimdik. As after Chassid is gefallen a pachad, he jumped up, he said, Rebbe, gib gleich again. So we all have this problem that we argue with the Rebbe. We all have what this Chassid said to the Rebbe Marash. So everyone in his way, we say, Rebbe, als was vet mir heißen, bin ich bereit zu tun. Except. We all have the except. We all have the area, das kann ich nicht tun, and therefore my Ruach Shtus says, bis nach Alfa Chassid, you're doing everything else. So there's one thing, there's one thing that you're not doing. The second nusach is that he wanted to give a get. And the Rebbe Marash was telling him not to give a get. And he couldn't, and he said to Rebbe Marash, he can't not give a get, but the ending is the same. It's just two opposite. The reason why it's two opposite, according to the first way that I heard, so then I understand it very much in our Avezas Hashem, because that's what the Rebbe tells us also. The Rebbe tells us, give a get, kol hayetze lemochemes beis David, get krisos kesev liishtei. Don't be so caught up with Ishtay, with Inyani Ha'elam. It's talking to us. We're all caught up with Elam Haza. Don't be tied to it. Don't be married to Elam Haza. Don't be Zaynim Achareim. Get the Chapa Bissel from Welt. So we say, Rebbe, als was wird mit Heisen, bin ich great Satan. But this is my line. I'll still be a chassid, but I need my Elam Haza. I need my creature comforts. We argue with the Rebbe. every person has his area where, whatever format it takes, where we're doing our own thing. We're not ready to accept something. So there was someone in Yechidus that was arguing with the Rebbe, and this person was arguing about beards. And he was telling the Rebbe that he has many rayas that it's not terrible to shave a beard. Now, you could understand that nobody could argue with the Rebbe al Pitera about the union of beards. This is, the Rebbe wrote the Ha'aris of the Tzemach Tzedek on that. The Rebbe could have easily brought him many proofs from Peskim that you have to grow a beard. But the Rebbe said to him, I think they did discuss it first from a halachic perspective. Then the Rebbe said to him, when you picture Beis Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen, Tanoim, I think the Rebbe mentioned a few names like Arizal, but I don't remember. The Rebbe mentioned, like, when you picture all these Nevi'im, Tanoim, you picture them with a beard or without a beard. So the person was honest. I guess he said with a beard. So the Rebbe said, so you see by yourself that's more powerful than all the arguments and all the rayas and mind tightness to minus. You know yourself that the seer of a Jew is with a beard. So ask yourself, everyone, when you picture a chassid of 50 years ago, 100 years ago, someone who you know is a genuine chassidish shiri, when you picture the tamim and teimchet tmimim, the real tmimim, how do you picture them going to sleep? How do you picture them waking up? How do you picture them saying Shema, davening, eating? There was a chassid in Lubavitch that the mashpia was demanding from him that he should prave eskafia. Yeah, eat like a chassid. So before him, there was a tamim. I forget his name. The name was, I think, Shimshon something, right? Shimshon, I forget, whatever. So this Shimshon passed away from Iskafia. He did Iskafia, and he passed away. And he was at der Hübene Bacher. No, most people don't pass away from Iskafia. It's not a very great hazard to anyone's health, but this Bacher did. This Bacher. So there was another Bacher, and the Mashpia, Reb Shilem, I think, was demanding from him Iskafia. So Aveda was demanding from Aveda. So the Bacher says to Mashpia, just like today, Bachrim are wise guys. It wasn't originated. It was always Bachrim wise guys. So the Bacher says to the Mashpia, you want me to die like Shimshon? He's demanding from Aveda. He says, you want me to die like Shimshon? I'll do Aveda. So the Mashpia says to him, Besser starben v'yayid v'leben v'yagoy. He didn't get the spoil from his taina. He says, yes, that's the only way. Besser starben v'yayid v'leben v'yagoy. So we have to picture those tzmimim. How do you picture them? How do you picture them leben v'yayid? The way you picture them, that means that's the way a chassid is supposed to look. If that's the way a chassid is supposed to look, that's the way we're supposed to look. Of course, there's technical differences. There's chitzenistic differences. But again, to the ikra and yanim, that's how we have to look. You can't come and convince yourself that I'm still a chassid. This is what we had. This is our lechatchila ribber. This is what we have to take away from Beis Iyar in general, and from the whole crazy situation that the world is in specifically. At Medav Shtein Hecher, for us, we have to react the way a chassid reacts. Lift yourself up. Understand that the Eibishter is shaking up the world. It's Haras Elam, and the only way we could react with that is Shtein Hecher from Vel. It's Lab Mitalikos, and the only way we could do that is by living our day like a chassid. It's the way we sleep, the way we get up, the way we eat, the way we learn, the way we daven. Darf sein mit mehr Warmkeit, mit mehr Lachluches, mit mehr Lekus. That's the only solution. That's our tool. That's our answer. That's our solution. That's our key. The Mele comes l'chatchila riber. It's Mazle Gever of the Rebbe Marash. It's a time that we all have the kaiches and we all have the inspiration. We all have the motivation. We all have the reason, because none of us dream. None of us think that we could continue in this sorrow that we're in. So we have the push. Channel the push, channel the areas to tell you into Kalim, the Tikkun, channel everyone and each of us into specific areas that we know. Everyone knows what he's able to do and what he's supposed to do, and Vasamantzach for them. Channel it into specific ways that we become more chassidish, better chassidim. Better chassidim means that we start living with our lekos and not with our Ishtay, not with our connection with Elam Hazeh. We're able to do it. Each step that we take, it's a small step for us. It's a big step in the big scheme of things. The whole Seder Shtalshlus is waiting for us. All the generations in history are waiting for us. So if we do our part, we liberate the whole world from Golos. We liberate our generation and all the generations from the Hell and Behester. Let's finish off with Alachayim. We started with Alachayim. We'll finish with Alachayim. Let's say together L'chaim and take the Kayach of Achsidish Farbrengen, the Kayach of Beis, the Kayach of L'chatchila Riber, to burst through and break through all the Mishagasa and all the Halamitz Vesterim. Should be l'chal b'nei Yisrael haya'er b'meshveisam, even in the last moments of Golos, should be lichtig, and for sure should be the eir of the eir, v'haya havaya lahem la'eir eilam, the eir of the Gula Mitzvah Shleima takef miyad mamish l'chatchila riber. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim l'bracha. Yashikech again to Moshe Frag for arranging it and pushing and nudging and making sure that it happens. And we soll Farbrengen zusammen this famous from each of us and from all of us, and only good things and only good news.
Amen.
And we soll Farbrengen mehr oft. We should Farbrengen more often and more frequently and with the person.
Amen.
And whoever has to make a bracha achrena, soll nicht vergessen machen a bracha achrena. Whoever has to daven meirev, soll nicht vergessen meirev.
The rest of the